All right. Let me just first and foremost do a sound check. All right. So, and just bring up some of the comments for. Right. Right. So, let me just check. Can you guys actually loud and clear? Yep, you guys can. Shukran, Rami. I much appreciate the comment, the the super swift and prompt response. Bismillah, inna alhamdulillah wa kafah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa, wa ala ibadihi alladhina irtada, wa man bihudahum ihtada, wa bi athari ahli al-Madinah iqtafa, wa ba'd. فالسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا Juan Ying Lighten, bienvenidos a todos, Bahar Ragle, Khushamadid, Sasriyakal, Kemcho, and Swagatam, people. So, what is going on? Wow, I'm just, you know what? I'm a bit exhausted today, so probably keep it relatively brief. The show. So we'll go through some of the things. Let me just check whilst you guys are tuning in, clicking like, clicking share. So, right. So, and what we'll do, I'll cover what we're going through, and then we'll get through some of today's lesson. I think it's important, actually, this topic. Let me bring this up right here. So this is what we'll be taking a look at as soon as the topic of trying to always be fair. Now, this is a very difficult topic, I think, although it's so easy at face value, but it's actually, I think, one of the most difficult challenges in life to implement, especially with ourselves. We have so many biases. And then we'll take a look in light of that as well at a verse which sums up Islam in practice. And and then what I'll do is I'll just share out a link, and anyone who wants to spring on, they can, and then we'll probably wrap this up quite earlier than usual. So first of all, whilst you're tuning in, you can click like, click share, spread the love, people. Spread the love, man. That you have to do the love, man. You have to do the love. You see, if you want perfection in this dunya, if you want to be doing it, then in the words of Daagh, Dehlvi, Sahib, हजारों काम मोहब्बत में मजे के हैं दाग जो लोग कुछ नहीं करते कमाल करते Yeah, that's it. जो लोग कुछ नहीं करते कमाल करते. That he said, when there's so many amazing things to take from love in this world, he said, those who do nothing, all I can say is that they're just doing it. Naturally, the sarcasm. Right. So, somebody's talking about the universities they're applying to. Okay. Hoga. Chalo. Zindagi. This is life, people. It's in the words of Fani, Badayuni. He says, जिंदगी नाम है मर मर के जिए जाने का. जिंदगी नाम है मर मर के जिए जाने का. That life is the name given to a how would we translate that? It's where you kill yourself in trying to live or in trying to make a living, but not make a living necessarily about just working, about life in and of itself, where you're thugging it out, someone said. Yeah, so right. It's true, isn't it? When you think about it, all you had to really do was just live in the moment. You see, living in the moment, people, let me tell you, let me share this with you. Living in the moment is what it's ultimately all about. It is that connection, that connect to that nirvana state. It is the being present with the ruh. That is only done in the now. But the struggle of the self, the nafs, is that the nafs can only, by default, it can live in the past or the future. It can only live in memories or dreams. It is, I don't know, of the stuff of illusion. The nafs, it struggles with the now to bring yourself into the present. The thoughts, they can't, you see, that's all distraction. It's the past memories, thoughts, future, tomorrow, next week, next year. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to, just bringing it all in to the now. That is where you truly meet yourself. You come face to face. Right, this one. Very interesting, man. Both interesting. Es muy interesante. There's a poet I read from him last week, actually. Abdul Hamid Adam. He has some fascinating poems, honestly. I do have a liking for Adam. And he has a poem where he says, it's incredibly profound. He says, Bazokat किसी के मिलने से अदम अपनी हस्ती से मुलाकात हो जाती है. We repeat that. He says, Bazokat, that sometimes, ahyanan, right? A veces, in Espanol. So it says, sometimes, Bazokat, किसी के मिलने से अदम, that sometimes by meeting a particular person, अपनी हस्ती से मुलाकात हो जाती है. A person comes face to face or comes to meet or a glimpse of their own true reality. Incredibly profound. Wow. Honestly, poetry has always been a solace for me. I find in the words that people say, there's a zone, a haven, a space it takes you to that is more experienced than understood. Speaking of Adam, he has another interesting poem. Speaking of life, since we're speaking about life, he says, मैं कदे की राह से होकर निकल गया. He says, मैं कदे की राह से होकर निकल गया, वरना सफर हयात का काफी तवील था. Wow. He says that Mekada is the place to drink. Often could be intoxicants, the tavern, the pub, the bar. But it's often used by poets as a spiritual metaphor, okay, for gnosis and divinely inspired knowledge, or so this and a source of true love for the divine, as opposed to the love for, in fact, what's interesting, often in poetry, they will refer to al-ishq al-haqiqi, that true love, as divine transcendental love, and al-ishq al-majazi, the metaphorical, allegorical love, as that of the world, whether it's erotic or platonic, or they will refer to these as metaphorical love. See, that's it's amazing, huh? What poetry does, even in its definitions. So he says, मैं कदे की राह से होकर निकल गया, होकर निकल गया. He says, I took the route of the bar or the pub or the drinking place, and via that I managed to get through. That I just took that route as a quick diversion lane, and I got through. Otherwise, varna safar hayat ka kafi tawil tha. Says, otherwise the journey of this life, that it was otherwise the road that was destined as life was such a long path, such a long road ahead. So I took this diversion. Allah, Allah. So, what is going on? So, yeah. Cha. While some people are tuning in, clicking like, clicking share, there's, to be honest, I'm quite exhausted. I've, there's something which I call trauma reset intensive. Okay. And it's basically it's an intensive kind of program to help people through, but really, to be honest, I don't really enjoy doing it, but it's to help people through a very dark, incredibly, to channel them through the depth of the shadow. And I just recently assisted, I did that with someone not so long ago, but it's even probably it's been under a week, but it is so draining. It so weighs on the soul it's something I'd kind of, through various practices, and just kind of come up with a method. And it's a mixture of stuff. So we're talking an element of certain NLP practices, a bit of CBT, hypnosis, some spiritual elements, dua, things like this. There are some unorthodox elements to it, and it's incredibly intensive. We're talking 10, 12 hours non-stop, and leading to immense, a kind of like a deconstructing the barriers and setting into motion a release. It is really, really intense. You're talking repetitive breakdowns by And this is for really for victims of immense trauma, not just, I mean, I suppose anybody could, but it's not really, you know, we're talking really serious, the darkest of the dark and the most horrible of experiences. And yeah, and so I just recently assisted someone through that, and it is so just, I mean, it's so refreshing and wonderful to see the healing. You start and you see it more or less. It's not, but you're talking, it's by the end of the intensive, you will start seeing it, and then it will start to grow. Often in people, it will be an inner child that is then at that stage released away from the, you know, rescued from the abyss to now rapidly grow and heal in the world. But it really, it's so much on you. And yeah, because you know in psychology you have something of therapists, which in different branches of psychology they will refer to as, for example, transference. It's a bit like that. So transference is obviously, but there's an element of but that's more so in psychoanalysis. It's highlighted in Freudian therapies of how you know, people projecting, and then how the therapist could also introject but not exactly that, but you see what you have is you have a visceral cleanse, a purge of the soul. It's actually purged, and there's just sometimes so much darkness, and it is incredibly just like weighty weightysome in its load, and it's tiring, and days will go by and you'll still, and there is obviously a slight series of an aftercare, but ya salam, you know, may Allah guide all. But it's really good to see that, wow, you know, people emerge on their path to healing now. But it makes you also think that, wow, how have these people even been surviving? You know, it's so much that of just so much darkness. Honestly, I don't, you know, I can't say, but it's just unimaginable, unfathomable, an abyss. But ya salam, may Allah grant shifa to each and all. But I think it is important in life, people in their own way, on their own paths, seek for a kind of cleanse, a visceral, spiritual, a purging of the soul in that sense. They say la purga, a purgative experience. Yeah, so let's move on, people. Let's move on. Let's take a look. Oh, we've got I missed a super chat. All right, let me just go back. Azarati, you're doing it. Much love, much love. Somebody asking about Bid'atul Hasana. T. Hussein saying he loves the laugh. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Laughter is key, people. Ameen, Zayba. May everybody heal from trauma. It's amazing, you know. As the Mufti is a style icon. DMT. This what I was talking about wasn't necessarily, but that's also It's also part of the God, the the path to consciousness and the God molecule. Right. Management tips you could share asking for a friend. Nora, shukran, and much love for the super chat. Time management, I honestly, my life, it has no routine. It's always something different happening, and I'm always in a state of trying to add a structure, but then things just change. They keep changing, and I don't know, maybe there's some divine wisdom in that. Some people, they never, I envy people who have everything so ship-shaped and organized, and it's always according to a routine, and their life is entirely according to, I mean, I don't, not in a hateful way envy them, but I envy them in a way that, wow, life could be like this. Like I have to slap myself and think, yeah, life could be like that. Abedek, look. Aber. So, but the thing is that each to their own, I guess. I do use different things. I'm really liking the Calendly app, which allows people to just schedule in. So basically, you link it with your. So I would advise that as a time management for people, because I was struggling. So in the summer this year, I was really struggling with arranging appointments with people. So I would, somebody would contact me, I'd send a message. Now I'm distracted over here with this person. Now I've forgotten all about, something else has happened. And then, then I chase up with this person, but then they say, okay, I'll tell you what, how about this day at this time? But now this has happened for that time. And I get to hear, and it's like there were about, 25 different tabs open in my mind all the time. So it was really, although I'm used to that, but when it came to other people and arranging appointments and things like this, it was really becoming a bit of it was becoming quite taxing on me. So a friend of mine recommended, actually, I got to get him on Mindtrap. He's a great person. He's written books on growth hacking and all of this stuff. Dr. Nadir Sabri from Dubai. I believe he's retired now. He's an entrepreneur. But he told me, look, why do you use this app? I use it. And so since first I thought, I don't know. Then I watched a YouTube review on it and I thought, you know what, this might work. But I have to say, since I've been using it, it's been wonderful, because now when I when I need to arrange something, what you do is you sync it to your Google Calendar, and you just fill your calendar with events that are, for example, what you just update that accordingly. Like if you've got to be out for these days, or you got to do this, or these days are blocked, then that's fine. And on this app, you can set up it allows you to set up a schedule. So meetings, for example, so let's say I have my consultation meetings on there, and they are only scheduled within certain hours and so on. And it will then generate a link, and you can just share that with someone, and they can just book themselves in whenever. So when people get booked in, you just get a notification. It updates your calendar automatically. You get an email, you get an alarm saying, by the way, you've got a meeting scheduled with this person. And it's made life, just for me, that much more smooth. That element of it, anyway. Not the other things are still the way they are, but that's been smooth. So that's a great tip. I'll definitely advise that anybody going through trying to arrange. And this could be done casually as well. It could be, for example, although it's a professional element, but you could arrange, where you just meet friends and you've got a timetable, you've slotted that in, and just share that link, and people just, I'm just trying to say, you could structuralize a casual aspect of your life as well. Fahad, you're doing it. Much love to you as well. Right. What's going on? Chemical Tolly, Syrian scholar Firas al-Sawwah. is not in Jerusalem. We should critically examine our past and some of our religious traditions. Firas al-Sawwah. Okay, I've not heard of him, but I'll check him out. Yeah, I think, the thing is that we have to, religion is, because it's so passionate with people, you see, there's different layers to religion. Religion has an academic ocean, but then it also has a shore, and then which can see the ocean, but then it also has a further landscape farther away, and so where you can't even see the ocean. So people will fall in different aspects. To some people, religion will just be a matter of culture. To most people, it will be incredibly precious. But how involved are they with religion? So they might be just involved at a very rites of passage way. So to them, births, marriages, deaths, these things are about religion. And if they have a calamity, they have that personal connection with God, and they might give in charity, but that's it. To some people, it might be a bit more. They want to learn about maybe some things, and they want to pray every day, and they want to develop a bit more knowledge, and they're towards the shore, and and then you've got this sea and the ocean, and there's academic depths, and in there you will find the pearls, Allah, but you'll find the sunken ships, and you'll find many mysteries in the ocean. But people sitting at the shore just kind of paddling their feet in the subtle waves as they come up and down, those people will never have a true appreciation of the inner beauty of the ocean. But really, religion is for everyone. It's not just for people who will be deep diving, or it's not just for people here, but it has all of these. And often most people are not concerned with the gems and the pearls and the inner beauty and the intricate mystical wildlife of the deep blue sea of the deen. They're not interested, or they don't fathom it because they're not a part of it. And so I'm not saying they are. When I say they're not interested, that's why they're not interested, because they're just not there. And then there's another thing as well. You see, there's two types of people. There's one type of person, when it comes to religious knowledge, they think that religious knowledge isn't, it's simple. It's just, in fact, it's simplistic. Like, they think, what is there about religion that's so, because Islam is easy. So they have this understanding that easy equates to academic knowledge being easy. So they will assume that it's just basically the knowledge of learning about Islam is like it requires the reading age of 12, and that's it. Like, what is there? It's just stories, and okay, I don't know it, but if I was to learn it, it wouldn't be difficult. It's just that it's easy stuff. So you get that kind of people. So they think it's a quantitative approach, that the knowledge of Islam is just about quantity. So there's, let's say, 1,000 pieces of information which I don't have, but there's 100 pieces of information I do have. Now, if I did have the other 1,000, I would then be as knowledgeable as, you see, it's a quantitative learning approach, which is outdated, and it's wrong. I mean, that's not how learning takes place. Anybody who studied educational psychology or read the works of Piaget would know that learning is a qualitative and not quantitative approach. So yeah, so you have that kind of, and then you have the other category of people who think it's too complicated. So it's so complicated that they would think that I'm too stupid and dumb to learn it. Like, I'm just not bright enough. And that's another wrong extreme. Islam is not quantum physics, okay? Yes, there are elements of Islam that are incredibly intricate, but it's not, what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't mean that it's like an all or nothing game. Like it's either the inner depths of quantum physics or it's nothing. It's not like that. And I do encourage people to learn about Islam and to go a bit deeper. And then they learn all these, beautiful kind of things. They will learn these, the diversity, the amazing, colorful aspect and breadth of Islam. And I think, wow, I didn't realize there's that much diversity in it. Right. So, all right, what's going on, people? What's this? I'm talking about. If I say there's Snow White who wears sandal on a frock, I've got no idea what you're talking about. Adib Firas says, Mufti, huh? We can see Ard, but we can't see Samawat. The fact that Allah created both. I don't get it. We can't see, as in Allah says, that Allah khalaq al-ard wa samawat. He created the earth, but he created the cosmos. Samawat are the cosmos. So it would include obviously the galaxies and the universe, perhaps a multiverse, if it exists. It would be referring to things like that. Sama doesn't. So when people translate it as heavens, they don't mean the heavens as in paradise heaven. They mean samawat. So it's not jannat, it's samawat, which is like saying the heavens above, like they mean the sky, but not just our sky, as in the atmospheric blue that we see on planet Earth, but heavens above, like the ones with the stars and basically the galaxy out there and the cosmos, as we would say today. So that's what it's referring to. And when Allah says he created it, of course it is creation. I mean, there's stuff out there. I don't just mean going right from whether you're looking at actual stars of all variant natures to black holes, to the actual, different galaxies, to all of this stuff, and whether there's multiverses, they're all created by Allah, and including the forces. You see, you forget forces because mass, which you're looking at, is in essence energy. So an immense amount of energy, an incredible amount of energy, produces a tiny amount of mass. And for the first time, a couple of years ago, humans created that. So that had never been done before. So it'd been done the other way, based on Einstein's E equals mc squared. So you see, because so much energy makes a tiny, tiny amount of mass, and it works the other way. A tiny, tiny amount of mass, an atom, you split it, it will release the strong force, which will have an incredible amount of energy, hence the atom bomb. So, yeah, so I mean, but even if you're looking at how matter is created, obviously you have the forces, but then you're going to have things like the Higgs field, which is going to give rise to matter. So all of these things exist, even if you can't see them, but they exist. It's not like and whether time is a dimension, so whether it is, or time is most likely just an illusion. I don't think it's a dimension, but those who argue it's a dimension, fair enough. So that's involved. And the 10 dimensions that we have, or the 11, all of these things exist. We just can't see them. We don't know them. But I mean, in science, they exist. In physics, they exist. So it's not. Right. So what is going on? What's going on? The West is pushing a gay agenda on our kids. Look, what I would say is there's no need to panic. Okay. People panic They start thinking, oh my God, such and such a person is gay. We're going to all turn gay now. I mean, it doesn't work that way. Because just think about it in the opposite then. Because if you go by the opposite, then overwhelmingly everybody is straight. And then the gay people ought to turn straight. You know, it's... I watched a clip a while back. You know, since I want to focus more on love, I won't mention the name of our beloved. But there's a clip where a preacher, and this has often happened, sometimes some preachers become so obsessed with homosexuality, and they become so homophobic that everything apparently leads to becoming gay. Like you say, well, you know, if you do this, this is going to lead to that, this is going to lead to that, and then you're gay. So there was this one talk where this da'i, shall we say, he was saying, well, you know, if you listen to music, you know what's going to happen then? Clearly, you're going to end up in a club. So, and if you end up in a club, clearly, you're going to drink. And if you're going to drink, clearly, you're going to be dancing to the music, and you're going to be dancing with women. So let's say he's addressing men, dancing with women. And if you're dancing with women, clearly, you're going to be fornicating with these women. And if you're going to be fornicating with these women, you're going to be fornicating with them so much, until you get so bored of it that you're going to say, well, you know, I've had so many women now, I'm just so bored of women and just normal intercourse that now I need to try men. You know, it's so funny. So the theory is that if you have a lot of straight sex, you will end up gay. So, and that doesn't, you know, that's not on any plane, on any level, computable, or that can't be processed, because that doesn't even, there's no rationale, no logics, no math, no field can own that equation, that if you just have so much straight sex, you will end up becoming gay. Because I don't know who came up with that theory. Because then in that sense, all the gay people that are having so much gay sex ought to just end up straight. Because they ought to get bored as well. And they ought to say, well, you know, well, in that case, these guys might as well start off, since they're so afraid of becoming gay, they might as well start off gay and work it backwards. And just get... You know, there's this excessive fear, and it's ridiculous. I do, you know, there's some genuine concern, and I'm with that. Sexualization of children. It disturbs me. I don't like the kind of sexualized talk. And I'm not aware, because I'm not involved in schools and stuff like this, although many years ago I was a teacher, but I'm not involved for many years now, anything to do with it. So I'm not familiar with what the kind of new guidelines are. And as long as it's not sexualized in that way, just teaching whatever they're going to teach, or the government's going to teach, I don't think you need to freak out. I think just let it be. People are okay. You know, don't worry. You've got, look, you have to just live life and focus on yourself. Just remember what I said about being in the present. The nafs is either in the past or it's in the future. That's where it kind of swings to. You have to bring it to the now and live it. Okay. Mahmoud Abdul Baqi, yaar, oh my God, sharminda kar dete aap. What? Oh, ya salam. What a super chat. May Allah always keep you smiling, yaar. You really didn't have to do something like that. I feel, honestly, I feel terrible. Had an interesting discussion with a friend, and we were talking about heaven and hell. It made me think, do we move on to the next life with our ego or identity? Could it just be pure consciousness? They made a good point in saying that it would be the point of this life if your identity didn't follow, since what would be the point of this life if your identity didn't follow, since that's what you would be judged upon. Yeah, I mean, you see, there are ulama who argued for consciousness is what continues. People like the great Maliki scholar Ibn Rushd and other people, and you see, because to them consciousness is the ruh, and that's what to me as well, consciousness is the ruh. So is it just the ruh that continues, or is it the body? And some people like classical Maliki scholars like Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani, and I think Ibn Hubayra, and they were of the understanding as well that it's just the ruh. Now, I believe Ibn Hazm is of the same understanding as well. And this is what Ibn Rushd and other great thinkers as well, that it's the ruh. And this is, I believe, the same with Ibn Arabi, Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi, and many other mystics, that it is the the soul or consciousness that continues. Then the next questions that you ask about, well, what does this mean? How would it be? What would being experiencing consciousness be like? What would what's rewards or bliss going to feel like? What are certain tragic consequences to that going to be like? What is a representation of that? For this, we can't understand this. The closest you could possibly get to that, Mahmoud, is to walk a path of trying to develop consciousness in this dunya, and that's through certain deep meditative practices, and you can link them in with spiritual elements, and you may get some understanding of what being in the pure. I love the somebody once shared with us an example of the ancients saying that consciousness is like the stream, or like a lake, and thoughts are like the ripples in the waves that run through it, and with that you can't see into the lake. It's only when it is still, and it's really difficult narrowing down the thoughts. Your consciousness is still you see, but you think you are the self, you think you are the thoughts. When you're saying, well, and the person asks that, oh, well, if we don't have continuity, then what is the purpose? There is continuity, but the continuity is of consciousness, of the soul, not of the you that thinks. But it is still you, and you would know it. If you saw it, or if you experienced it, you would know that it is still me. It's just not this me. And it can be experienced to some, there can be some approximations made in this world for people who do walk that path of trying to understand consciousness. They do experience that, and they understand it. And let me give you the closest example I can give you without you having the experience, is like saying, so let's say, Mahmoud, you are Mahmoud. When you wake up in the morning, you don't have to tell yourself, I'm Mahmoud. You just know that. There is a difference between that knowing self and the other part of you that has to, oh, I have to do this, oh, I have to get that done, I have to make it on time for this, oh, I want this, I better plan for that. There seems to be a different dynamic to the self that just knows. So the way, this is like an approximation, the way you don't have to think that, am I Mahmoud? Am I this person? You just know that. That is the level, that is the entry gate to consciousness, to the ruh. The ruh just knows. It's just experiences. It's not like, it doesn't have thoughts and ideas, and it doesn't do things like that. So it's the pure now, pure sheer experiencing. So it's obviously difficult explaining these things because these are experiential things, and it's hard explaining them in words because they're not an academic equation. It's not an information deficit. It's an experiential realization. But Mahmoud, much love to you, yaar. Allah khush rakhe. May Allah keep you smiling always. Ameen. Somebody said, Mufti, why don't you address the elephant in the room? Your house was raided by, and you pretend that it never happened. I've never pretended it never happened. I've made a whole video on it. I've got it on my YouTube. I discussed it. I took 2-3 months as a as a break. There's incredible discussions on it. I discussed it on my posts. I discussed it on my YouTube community posts. I discussed it on Facebook. I made on my Instagram. I discussed it. I think on the first show of Meaning with MALM, dedicated probably an hour discussing it. So there's nothing. I don't know, when you say you pretended it never happened. Sometimes it's obviously a very horrible thing, but sometimes some very horrible things happen in life, and there's a lot of goodness that it's not that they are the source of goodness, but they may, because of the incident, what may happen is it may set something into motion which unfolds as a series of unfathomable blessings from Allah. And so like let's say, for example, let's say you had a a person had a car accident, or they were in a car accident, they've had an injury. Now they can't go to work, so they're at home. Now when they're at home, they have to be, so all of a sudden guests come to see them, let's say, because they're at home, they're not going to work. Now they've got time off from work. Now as they start to reconnect with, let's say, friends they haven't had opportunities to connect with, they start to think about life. They start to, now that they're sitting there, they're regaining their health, they realize, actually I've never focused on health before. So they start to all of a sudden take a deep interest in health. Whilst they're sitting there, they realize that they're watching something, let's say, and they think, well, and let's say now that they're at home, they end up watching something about, I don't know, photography or art or music, and they think, I always wanted to do this and I never really followed it, and I had a passion and I had a skill and a talent. So whilst they're at home anyway, waiting on, let's say, the injury to recover, they start practicing this and they get into it, and all of a sudden, because they're good at it, and then whilst they're connecting, and an opportunity comes up, and now they get to network with some lead photographers, let's say, or artists, and then before they know it, they've already got a booking and they're booked out, and whilst this is happening, they've been working on their health, and whilst that had been happening, because the accident felt like a near, let's say, it felt like it made them appreciate life, even if it wasn't near death, but it was traumatic, which led to post-traumatic growth, and it made them become positive, and now all of this person could be like, so many blessings may come to this person now. It's not saying that having a car accident means you will have so much blessings. That's ironic. Obviously, that's not it's a horrible thing. But how life unfolds, it's first of all, by the blessings and the grace of God, and secondly, by your appreciation and meaning that you give to it, and the opportunities you seize in life. So yeah, I unquestionably say that a lot, so much, so much has happened in those few months for me that wallahi, and I say this, I could upon oath, that it feels to me that in like 3 months the experience was like possibly like 2 years went by for me, like that. And I'm not joking. Like, it actually feels like that to me, like that much happened. Obviously, because I wasn't on social media much, I wasn't sharing so much, and I didn't want to share. You see, this is another thing that you have to understand, that I have never been someone that overshares on social media. I've always been a firm believer that you have to have your own journey in life. That don't be one of these people that you live for social media. Social media is for connecting with people, for networking, for sharing, for, doing all of these things. And once in a while you share a nice photo, and everybody wants to do things like this. It happens. But you don't ever, must have so many things in life that are happening that you are not part of social media. For years, I've been a firm believer in that. So because I haven't shared, and people may not know, but a lot was happening, a lot of wonderful things, wallahi, really transformative. And amongst that, so much love and all this stuff. And so in a way, a lot of good, so much good came out of it. But shukran for, obviously you must, you've asked the question, is it toy cook, because of the concern, and hopefully because of the love that you have. So may Allah bless you for your for your concern. Shukran. Mufti, you won on BukhariGate. It shows they don't have the brains. Dr. Abdul Majid did confront me on it and challenge me, and we did have a discussion. It's about 5 hours long. Look, to be honest, my points on BukhariGate, they couldn't be, I'm not saying that out of a sense of arrogance, but they of 100%, like that, the argument is irrefutable. So anybody trying to go against it would unfortunately miserably lose, unless their argument wasn't unless they were kind of agreeing with what I was saying anyway. Then I suppose they wouldn't. Then it wouldn't really be much of an opposition. It would just be maybe they disagree on tiny points, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, there was, you see, the purpose behind that was the purpose behind BukhariGate was to bring back this importance of the Quran as the center, the solar figure within Islam, and other things orbit the Quran and not the other way around. And it was just to remind people. And then me as well, in my way of doing things. And and I feel that one of the things of recent, of my own kind of development, this path that I've been on with consciousness, and I've realized that I don't know, like I feel a lot of change, honestly, a lot, like an immense, and I'm sure there's much more notice to other people who, because it's like, how much do you don't see yourself change in the mirror every day, but other people who haven't seen you for a while notice the change much more immensely. So I felt so much, and I felt that it's so important to focus on, this, this message of love and compassion that Islam has. I feel that this message of humanity, it is so much more important. And so I mean, there were certain methods, and I think obviously, you see, we are ourselves at different stages of our life, and I do think that certain things, maybe it's not about right or wrong, it's about different. I think maybe a couple of years ago, there were certain things, and maybe even last year, there were certain things I would say in a certain way, and I would say the same kind of things now, but I would say them in a different way. And I do feel that there has within me been unquestionable kind of development and like a growth from a consciousness perspective. Honestly, it's been, I've noticed it, people around me have noticed it, and I'm sure people who are farther afield would have perhaps noticed it even more. And it's part of the journey we call life. I'm really appreciative of it. I'm very grateful. I feel that, yeah, this is wow. And it's like, when you're in you feel that light, you're like, yeah, this is what people need. Honestly, it's really about love. It should be. And to be fair, I've seldom held hatred anyway for people in my life, but I know that sometimes in the past, the way I may have treated people, some people, and I'm not saying they didn't, at the time they would have possibly, most of them would have triggered me to do that. And I can be like that. It's not that I can't, and at that time I obviously was being like that. I just feel that maybe a lot of those people, see, unlike me, maybe a lot of those people held hatred in their hearts in turn. Because somebody could say a lot to me, and I won't like it, like everyone, you wouldn't like somebody saying so, but I wouldn't hold hatred. I wouldn't get kind of bogged down, and I'd be very thick-skinned about stuff. So this is why I could joke and laugh about things all the time. But I realized other people's, it weighs down on them. And sometimes it doesn't just weigh down, it pierces their soul. And they carry this kind of hatred and things. And we shouldn't really. People ultimately, it is humanity. It is about love. It is about that human connection. It doesn't matter how much a person disagrees with you, how much a person, somebody told me, I just recently found out Sheikh Asrar, Sheikh Asrar, who I've disagreed with passionately and in the past, and we've had all our our little altercations and disagreements online in the past. Somebody told me he was seriously ill in hospital with, I think, COVID. That's what they said on the message. So I just saw it recently. I don't know. And, I looked, did I have a number for him? Because I know the number I had from a few years back, that was out of service. And then somebody sent me, I don't know if it's his, but I sent him a message, making dua for him. May Allah grant him shifa. Ameen. Because look, at the end of the day, these things shouldn't run deep. You understand? Like, you can disagree with someone. You should still have an insaniya. The person, any person that is suffering, any person. I actually said, because we're in the same city, I said, look, if you need anything, I'm a bit of a vampire anyway. I'm awake at night. So just drop me a message. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't let disagreements ever, if I can help in any way, give me a shout. How there, it's not that this is what Islam ought to teach us. It's not people shouldn't have a kind of, this is, people, look, you could have a household, parents, children, siblings, everybody disagrees with each other. That's one household. Think about, and all of you that have siblings, think about your own siblings, how much you'd probably disagree with them. Think about your friends, how much you disagree with them. That's external people. Your own parents, think how much or your children, think how much you would disagree with ideas and choices, and that's one household. Now imagine humanity. Islam is here to celebrate diversity, and along the way, sometimes we people may be at loggerheads, and sometimes personalities clash. Some people have a loud personality, some people a bit quiet, some people, and personalities may clash, but never let it, kind of pierce your heart and inject it with venom. This is the way. And just always remember that there's always a sanctity for insaniya. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ with the dead body of a Jewish lady coming and the Prophet standing up, ihtiraman laha, out of honor and respect for humanity. Surprising the companions thinking, what's going on here? And then thinking, she's not even, some companions saying, but she's not even a Muslim. The Prophet, what's that supposed to mean? She's an insan. You see, a human. Or is humanity? This is the true message of Islam. In line with that, let's bring on, because it's very linked actually about today's, what I want to share, because I really do want people to personally try to connect with the Quran. Because what I realized is there's always the deep academic learning, but you could just read it, and a verse, if it reads to you in a certain way, you can take that meaning. This is the beauty of it. It's giving so many different, every person who reads it bringing their baggage to the table, it will speak to them accordingly. But this is a broad theme, and it's one that we've spoken of on many occasions, and I'll just bring it up here. Okay, Bismillah. Oh, I'll come back to that. This was so taking a look at Surah Ma'idah, verse 8, and do get familiar with some of these verses. Okay, this is one of the most important verses of the Quran. That A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. That Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina lillahi shuhada'a bil qist. And there is another verse that's similar with slight with the wording is back and forth slightly. That Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina lillah. That be maintainers, the people who hold it upright. For who? Lillah. First of all, we're going to come to that. So just shuhada'a bil qist, testifying fairly, to fairness, okay. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. This is the important point. Do not let your adversity with the people lead you away from what is just and fair. i'dilu is followed with a command. See, one, it already says don't do that, then further emphasizes it with a positive assertion. i'dilu, be just. Just said it, don't let it turn you away, but now it's saying be just. huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa. It is closest. This is what to piety or to mindfulness of God. That Inna Allah khabirun bima ta'malun. See, Allah knows anyway. Allah already knows what you're doing. Don't think like, you might trick. You see, why? First of all, why is it being said like this? It starts, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina lillah. That, people, be maintainers, be just. Okay, be those who stand upright. Not physically, although there's nothing, obviously one should stand physically upright, but here it's talking about justice. Because a person would think, but it's reminding you straight away why. It's not about you, it's not about the ego. Lillah. Objectively, it's about God. Do it for God. Do it for justice, not for gain. Okay. Shuhada bil qist, that witness, but what? Fairness. Qist is like a part, a portion. Why? Because this is where you get the word installments, for example, taqsit in Arabic, because it's portions that are fair. So this is your portion, this is my portion. Shuhada bil qist. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَعَانُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ لَا تَعْدِلُوا. See, there will be times where you can make a judgment on something, but there may be times where you don't like someone, or you don't like a group of people, or you don't like an entire people, or you don't like. That's your personal problem. You should fix it in its own time, but it's your personal problem. La yajrimannakum shan'anu qawm. And shan'an is that which, this kind of like anger or this frustration towards this, where people have that kind of something boiling against. Recently I've I've found myself really going into the history or the familiarity with ancient Arab tribes. I don't know why. I'd never thought I'd ever get fascinated with them. But I have actually recently. All this history, you got Bakr ibn Wa'il and Taghlib and all these different tribes, whether it's going to be from Mudar, Rabi'a, and all of these. I've just found myself for some reason, I don't know why I've really got into, but the famous tribe Azd Shanu'a, okay, which are a branch of Azd, but because they went off, these are the Qahtanin, they went off. Shanu'a, it's the same word in this verse, that Shana'an, that which, because they were angry, they kind of separated that tribe, became known as Azd Shanu'a. But the point is, Shana'anu qawm, don't let this adversity lead you to being unfair, because it will. It will. See, biases. People, in life, many things happen. People, you may have a fallout with a friend. You may have a fallout with a family member. You may disagree with your own parents. You may disagree with your children. Sometimes they may be wrong. It may even more difficult to accept. Maybe you might be wrong. But don't let that adversity lead you to being unfair. Marriages, in fact, not marriages, on the way out, divorces. We see this a lot. A lot. You'll see people weaponizing children. That the children, why? Because really there's an animosity. It's a frustration. A person may actually be right. The person may have wronged them. So I had somebody speak to me once. They said, it was the usual kind of the unfortunate situations where a couple divorce and the child is often is with the mother, and the father had no access. He'd been trying to get access, I think, for a couple of years. He'd been trying in that case. I think it had been about 4 years, if I recall correctly. No access. And I remember speaking to the couple, and the woman said, well, he was a horrible person. And if he was horrible to me, and I'm going with, he was a horrible person, I'm going with that. And she said, well, if he's a horrible person, then I'm just saving my daughter from this. I know he wants now to see her, but, I'm doing this for her. Like, that's the justification. But la yajrimannakum shan'anu qawm. You see, even sometimes you may be right in what the person has wronged you, but don't stop that, because that's an actual haqq of the child towards the parent and the parent towards the child. It could be in many things. It could be, like I said, with a parent. People disagree with their parents. But don't let this issue, it could be with a business partner. Often people have disagreements with when it comes to business. But don't let these things sway you. Still always try to be just. And it's really difficult because our own biases and prejudices are hidden from us. So we have to unveil them. And it actually develops us. You see, by enacting this verse, you're actually developing yourself. Where you you start to realize, okay, actually I'm being unfair. And that's a huge learning plateau. That i'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa. taqwa. This is amazing that Allah then follows by saying, being just is close to mindfulness. And you think close to taqwa, and you think, well, okay, how so? And one way, the obvious way, you say, well, because it's doing good and it's doing what's right, and this is, some people might say it's to do with fear of God, which the word taqwa doesn't mean fear, but I suppose you're aware of God is watching you, and therefore you're being just. Okay, these are fine. These are understandings of that as well. But another way of understanding this, you see, i'dilu, that because when you try to remove these blind spots of biases and prejudices, it's hard work because you can't see them, because that's the thing about a blind spot. You don't know there's a blind spot. So you have to introspect. You have to look within. You think, you know what? Yaar, I'm a bit prejudiced. It's a difficult thing. It's difficult to admit. You could think, you know what? Actually, when I think about it, I've got these influences. It could be cultural. A person could think, yeah, these, when I think about it, I do have some misogynistic ways of looking at things. I do have some discriminatory ways of looking at something. God forbid, I do have some racist ways of thinking of things. I do, like, to think this, a person has to go within, and they have to try to become aware of themselves. And in it, there's also a kind of like a purging. It's like a visceral, partially a visceral cleanse. And by doing that, you see that you become more mindful of your inner self. You become a bit more connected to that. And with that, you are connected to God. See, because if you become more mindful, you inevitably become more mindful of God. Huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa. So this, when you think about it, it's an amazing rabt, a connection. So, and it's true, we should, because God forbid, what kind of prejudices we all carry. We don't know. People carry all kinds of prejudices. I mean, I inshallah, I hope whatever I have, that I continue to cleanse them. I think back sometimes, sometimes I think back of conversations I may have had 10 years ago, and I'm so embarrassed. I think, damn, did I used to think like that? And, it happens, doesn't it? Because you are a product of your environment. You are a product of, and we have prejudices. Everybody has this, and it's as embarrassing. But what's great is that you come to learn of it and eradicate it. And an enlightenment process. So and it's interesting. It goes, the verse ends, wattaqullah inna Allah khabirun bima ta'malun. It's interesting. It mentions that, look, Allah knows, is aware of what you are acting, because you could do a similar process, but it's actually for show. It's actually for social status. It's actually for social media. Yeah, I'm such a just person. Would you mind holding the camera whilst I do this? Whilst I help this impoverished soul? These things, social media, honestly, it's wonderful, but this aspect of it is so taxing on the soul, because everything is just for social media. So I think that's such a beautiful verse when you think about it. It's so, and it cuts to the core. No here, there, no time wasting, straight in. This is what it's about. Do it. Don't let it sway you. Do it. It's going to be difficult. Do it. That's how it is. So I think, wow, yeah, the something which I really wanted to share. And the second verse, which ties in with that as well. You can see there, Surah Nahl, verse 90. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba. Now, this that you can see, I would feel honestly that all of Islam, the practical side of Islam, would be summarized in this verse. People say, what is Islam about? This is what it's about. That Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi ya'idukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. Now, that is all of Islam. There is nothing else to the deen that at its, if you were to sum it up, somebody said, tell me what are the teachings of Islam? And they don't just mean rituals, like Islam as a social mechanism, what does it look like? I know there's a personal connecting with God, but I can't see you connecting. That's a personal experience, that's experiential. I know there's rituals, like you pray and you might fast and give in charity, but these are your personal things. What does Islam look like as a social mechanism? What does it look like? And somebody might say, oh, Islam is all about having control, running countries, punishing people, about doing. Maybe they're trying to say something else and they're using the wrong words. Maybe they're coming from, some of these people may be coming from a very unfortunate desires of power and so on. But maybe some of these people are coming from a place of love for the deen, but they're getting the words all wrong. They're getting it all on their head. It's all on its head. As Allah says, this is summing it up. What does Allah command you with? This is how the verse begins. Inna Allah ya'mur. Allah indeed commands. With what? Bil adli wal ihsan. Justice, with fairness and kindness and compassion. That's it. Adli wal ihsan. It's not talking about a government system. It's talking about broad concepts. That's it. Telling you what they are. Adl, fairness. Ihsan. Ihsan is such a broad, it's like a umbrella for compassion, but also for a kind of propriety, like seeing that each thing may have, because the hadith says that the teaching that inna Allah katab al-ihsan ala kulli shay, that there is ihsan in everything, that when you do something in its way that fits it, the ihsan of it with kindness. And in the hadith, the Prophet said, well, if you had some clothes, you would fold them nicely. That is ihsan. But ihsan at a social level, of course, this compassion that you have, and this is it. And then some examples, like expanding. Wa ita'i dhil qurba. People who are close to you, give them. Give to them. Give. You see, it starts not by what you get. It starts by giving. Giving is living, people. You see, to serve is ultimately to serve God. So straight away you are thinking, but I want. But you give. Dhil qurba. Okay. Now, it then says that وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. Now here Allah doesn't mention وَالْبَغِي. Now that Allah says and so Allah commands and He forbids. He commands justice and compassion and kindness, giving. See, these are what social mechanism. What does he forbid? Transgression, baghi, and these things, once again, concepts are vague. I mean, not vague, they're umbrella concepts. Allah is not mentioning a specific thing. But munkar, that which people people have rebuked such actions that they have that. And here, this does not mean, people take it to mean, I suppose you can use the words, the verses to reflect many different scenarios. But in this broad universal sense, it's not talking about fiqhi differences of fiqh. Like, oh, well, one person says you should shave the tash. Another person says, no, you shouldn't shave the tash. And then one person says, that's a munkar. Another person says, it isn't a munkar. This is not what it's talking about on a human universal level, on whether you should shave the mustache or not, or grow the beard or not. Those are fiqhi differences. And even though people use the word munkar, they may use it, but that's not, you see, this is the book of Allah, it's not a book of fiqh. This is speaking about what humans will see as munkar. Cannibalism. Humans will see it as a munkar. They will see it as fahsha. Okay. Things that do destroy societies, they will see them generally. So this, and it's kept vague. Why? And that is from the miraculous beauty of the Quran. Because human societies will always develop and change. So if it's listed as 1 A, B, C, in the future, maybe C won't be there, maybe maybe A won't even be there, but B will be there, maybe there'll be D, E, F. And so the whole point is Islam is for all times. And it mentions transgression, oppression. And you know what's interesting is the heart-mind coherence. So, and Allah is bringing that into sync here. See that the heart, the brain and the heart, or whether you want to say the mind, but the brain heart coherence that you have, bringing it into sync. And because we have these thoughts, we have these, people have aspirations, they have, and when the power of belief. See, you can have a vision, but then it needs that emotion. And this is why Allah, they're saying about transgression, forbidding transgression. When a person is transgressed against, you see, there's an amazing hadith that da'watul mazlum, the dua of the oppressed person, reaches God. Why? Because normal person makes dua as well. Ya Allah, give me a mansion. Ya Allah, give me this. There's nothing, it doesn't, it's not a bad dua. Just if somebody said, Ya Allah, make me a billionaire, that's not a bad dua. There's nothing wrong. I mean, it makes no difference to Allah what you're asking for. The thing is that, you see, this is coming from the brain. And the brain is generating it. It's true. It's coming. And the more you're thinking about it, the more you're visualizing it, it's taking its kind of life to, and if it's accepted, to manifest in this world. But it doesn't have the emotion to carry it. And this is why, if that thought is met with heart as well, the synchronicity of brain heart, this dua, this is why people often see that, with the hadith, that da'watul mazlum, that it is that Allah hears it, because this is how it sets off from this world. And this is what Allah is saying about baghi, about transgression, that this forbidding that. And you've got here, يَعِذُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. And this is what's being admonished to you or taught to you, you could say, I don't know if preached is the right word, but admonished you, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. And what's interesting, in the hope that you may remember. And why remember? Because you already know good from bad. You see, it's not talking about little fiqh issues. You have to learn good from bad. Most good and bad at this level, what it's talking about, people already know it. So it's admonishing you in the hope that you remember, not learn, you remember. Because remember, you know it ain't right being unjust or transgressing. You know these things. It's not an information deficit. So yeah, I thought that's so important to share that. May Allah make it easy for people. Ameen. Right. So right. Mahmoud Abdul Baqi saying Mufti changed my life. I can't. Yeah, Geo Meri Jan. You know what? Hit me up a message after the show as well. I'll send you my number as well, and let's connect, inshallah. Let's connect. Right. So right, what's going on here? Right. So right. I need to take what's this? See, that's the life. Mahmoud is taking the missus out. He's saying for ice cream, so he can't make it on the live show. It's all right. Don't worry about it. You hit me up after your ice cream. Send me a message. You can message me on Insta. I've seen your messages before, and I'll send you my direct number. Yeah, don't worry about it, man. So we'll connect, inshallah. Right. So what else is going on? Right now, let's shall I share the link? And Mufti, that's not fair. We want to connect. Yeah. Go to my Patreon. On Patreon, I have let me bring this up actually. You can see here. If I click on there, that's my Patreon. You just go there, search MALM, and you can connect on Patreon, and it will give you a Discord link. It does have different subscriptions, tiers, and there's just nominal stuff too. I do have one-to-one perspective sessions as well. That's, I think, tier 2. And tier 2, so they do have different, subscription costs with it. It sorts it all out. It's straightforward. But the one-to-one perspective, I think, is just under, I've forgotten how, because it was originally set in dollars, so it wasn't in pounds, but it was just under £100, I think. That's the one-to-one perspective session. But you have other things. You just have a nominal, I think it's like, I can't remember. I think it's £4 or £5 or something, but they'll all give you access to a Discord group that I have called Mindscape, and you can just connect on that, and inshallah we'll be connected. There you go. So it's available. It's not that it isn't, but obviously it is. It's taxing, and a person has to, because you can't. You see, I get it. I was actually saying this to someone, I think, has it been about 2 weeks or something? I said to someone, the problem is, there's so many hurting souls out there. It's so true. There really are so many hurting souls. And people don't have someone that can listen to them. And it's sad, but it's true. And when I do, I find when I speak to people, just the very nature of how you listen, because obviously they appreciate it, but it's like they hook right on, because it's like they've not got this, like just listening somebody, and they start pouring out and just going on, and people will. And I understand that they've got a lot of difficulties and a lot of challenges, and they need to face that shadow as well. And people are desperate to to be able to speak to someone like that, and then you really appreciate. You're like, damn, and they just need an ear that can really just listen. But it becomes too draining for you because they just won't want to let go. And there'll be so many people like that. And if you just keep doing that, you'll be there'll be no more of you. So you have to kind of be fair to yourself as well. So this is why I do it as a system where it offers people, and then you have to commit as well, because it's a transactional process. So yeah, right. I'll share the link, and yeah. Others may have a larger fan base, but the Mufti runs a deeper bench. Cello, it's true. It's true. I'd like to say it's true. It's people do. Sometimes I do see that how people have such followings and such. It's amazing. It's mesmerizing how I don't know how they do it in that sense, and it's just wow. But you have to remind yourself, and I think this, in many ways, if I be honest, it's good in always humbling my own ego, because I too am one who's walking this path. You have to, and I think it's good to understand that, to realize that this. Because we can all kind of drift away on this ego trip, and it's good not to be reminded that it's a humbling experience when you see people with ridiculous amount of following, and you see your own, and you're like, yeah, ¿qué es eso? What is this? You're like, this is just a this doesn't count anywhere. But it really is about the qualitative thing, the connect that you have with people, the little things that people write to you about, and the changes. And it's amazing, wallahi. In that sense, it's so much that I'm very grateful for it. Nora, I'm on Discord. Everyone come say hi. All right, Nora, you're doing it. Shukran. Right, so Menk Mufti, can you see my comment, Mufti? I can indeed. Right, so let me share this link. There you go. We'll bring people on. Yeah, so what else is going on, man? You know what? Whilst that's happening, let's pour myself a little drink here. Karna parta hai, this is don't worry, man. It's all right and legal, man. This one. So this is like a specially made kind of mojito kind of drink. One must quench the actual body as well as the soul. So people, I've shared the link. Yeah, change your numbers. You know what? No, change my timings. Yeah, that's true, actually. Yanwa 19. I do intend to change it, to be fair. Because I've been actually thinking recently I've been trying to change some of my timetable, and actually I was meaning to change it very recently, and I did start, but then when I did this what I call this trauma reset intensive with someone, it was really taxing on me, and it really drained me. And so after that, I was like, just not fully there for several days. You have this kind of secondary repercussion of dealing with people, and it just reminds you as well how difficult of a job it is dealing with intense trauma. And sometimes it's not that you forget, but in the everyday of it, you think, you underestimate again that, and then when you're in it, you realize, this is so, wow, this is so intensive. It's just so intense, and you've got to, once you've begun, you've got to get the person through. So it's, and it's difficult as well, because I'm a kind of person that is very, I'm solution driven. Like if I see a problem, I think solution. Okay, that's how I think. And maybe many of you are like this as well. So if there's something here, I'm straight away thinking, okay, how does that get fixed? And so it could be from anything in life to, it could be, let's say a person had an injury. I would think, okay, how can that get fixed? And often I'm thinking with my own experience and out of the box. So I would think, for example, if it's health, I would think, okay, what kind of amino acids help that? I would think, okay, what about glutamine? What about, if something's going wrong here, I know, let's try, depending on what the situation is, how about some phenylalanine, which will replenish, let's say, or what about tryptophan, which will replenish, if it's mental related, serotonin? What about I don't know, these kind of supplements that could add to this, if it's health or something, or even mental related, as in the moods or stuff like, or let's say there's an actual problem. Okay, how do we fix this problem? We can do this. I'm very, that's how I function. And you see, and that, although that may be very good in certain things, and I'm sure those of you that are like that can, and this is why I get frustrated around people who, this is why I'm not a good person around people who may be in a bit of a fix in a problem, whether it's health related or personal related, or I don't know, life related, and they're the type of people that don't do anything about it. because when I see a problem, I assume that they want solutions. So I will be like, okay, think. Okay, this, what about this? Okay, there's something, right? I know someone that could do this. Okay, we could, and if the person is like, they're not solution driven. They're more about just, I don't know, like some people, like they could have, let's say, an injury, and they'll just talk about the injury all the time. Oh, I'm still hurting, but they're not doing anything about it. And I get internally a bit frustrated, because I don't understand why you're not, because I just see the world in my way. And so similarly, now with this mentality, the problem with dealing with people that when they're going through a lot of trauma is you have to suspend that. And what you have to do is channel them through this darkness, facing their shadow and coming. And you're not trying to fix their problems. You're not trying to do that. And that can be very hard for some people who are very solution driven people, because there's problems upon problems, and there's disasters and catastrophes, and it's like, and it's really, and you have to obviously channel your priority is the healing. It's not the problems, because you can't undo the past. You can't fix everything. And you have to come to terms with that as a person in that moment. And that's hard as well for people that are very driven in that way. They see the world in that way, that we need to fix. If there's a problem, what's the solution? So it knocked me off routine again. And now I was thinking, you know what, I was thinking about this. Let's change the timings, and not radically, but bring it back to earlier. And inshallah, make dua. Let's see. Yassar Allah. So people, I've shared the Mufti Saab. Can you invite Hamza Abdul Malik from New York to your show? What is the source of guidance? I've heard of Hamza Abdul Malik. I've heard of him. Is he the is he about the Quranist kind of, or maybe I'm mixing him up? But sure, why don't you ask him? I have a simple rule that the person has to be interesting and interested. That's it. Ask them if they're up for it. Sure, let me know and we'll make it happen. Rami, do you listen to podcasts? If so, which one? All right. I do actually, but not as systematic. My kind of learning is very scattered. So I get into something and then I just research the hell out of it. And then I like have a PhD equivalent amount of information on it. And I don't know what to do with that information. And then I just like, I'll find something else and I'll just end up researching the hell out of it. And I'll watch shows on it and I'll listen to discussions on it. But I seem to learn in these kind of sporadic leaps. And so recently I've really got into, and I don't even know how I got into this. I've got into this whole the ancient Arab tribes and about them, the who they were and how they were related to another, and I wouldn't think that in the past I have studied this a long time ago, and I've forgotten loads of it because I found it very boring. And I went through a very detailed course in the past, about, I think it's been many years now, probably about 7 years ago or something. I did a really detailed course and I forgot most of it because I was like, oh, this is so dry. Who the hell wants to learn this? And I find myself just recently, like I'll be researching, I'll be like, Acha. I'll be like, Acha. So the Qabila of Acha, Amir ibn Sa'sa'a, it goes to Hawazin, Acha. And this tribe, it goes to Acha. I don't even know. It's like I've created this little world and I'm like, so what happened when that's not like research. It's weird. It's weird. Yeah. Let me systematic. Mufti, what does that mean? Come on, you can Google that. Mufti, what are you? Engineer versus Tariq Masood drama. No, Shahbaz, I recently, sorry, not recently, maybe a few months ago, I saw that there was some YouTube videos that were pitting them against each other, but I just assumed it was people stirring. I didn't realize there was going to be an actual debate or something, but sure, do keep me posted. We've got someone. Let me share the link again. And there's a question here, an interesting one as well. That's gone. It was here. Chalo, what's this one? JB Productions. Wow. What is your opinion on the 12 Imams revered in Shia and Sufi Islam? I think generally the Imams of Shia Islam are mostly revered and respected within Sunni Islam. Generally speaking, they are. I mean, on the 12th Imam, I think some of people may disagree, but there isn't any disrespect towards the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. But obviously they disagree in to what degree are these people the reference points. So let's say Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq is a respectable, highly respected Imam within all of Islam, mostly speaking within Sunni and Shia Islam, but his I suppose his point of being, or his being a reference point for all matters in Islam, would definitely be highly disputed. So Sunni Islam generally won't, not that they don't agree with him, but he's not the main reference point for, let's say you want to learn about a hadith, you're not going to say, well, what did Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq say about it? You're just going to look at the hadith scholars, or you want to learn about fiqh, you're going to look at the fiqh scholars. And so they don't use them as reference points. And to be fair, I think there's some element that it is done on purpose, because I feel historically that the Ja'far, like let's say that's a good example, Imam Ja'far, because he's a teacher to people like Imam Malik and Imam Abu Hanifa, but they seldom quote from him. And I feel that's because maybe he was closer to what the Shia claim him to be than what the Sunnis claim him to be. Allahu A'lam, but I feel that may be the case. So both spheres agree on these figures. Shia Islam will claim that he used to have certain kinds of teachings, like the supremacy of the Ahlul Bayt and the bloodline, the sacred bloodline, and he would have certain. Obviously, the whole Shia tradition, or huge amount of it, is based on, let's say, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. So Sunnis will claim that no, the Shia have made up most of these things, and Imam Ja'far wasn't really somebody that would have said things like this. But then they don't quote from him, which leads one to assume that, well, in which case it's more likely that he is saying what they are saying, or at least close to what they are saying. Otherwise, you would all equally have a series of things transmitted from him. This is an assumption. Obviously, we don't know these things as a fact, but that's what I think. That's my assumption on this. Yeah. And there are, we have to try to overcome some of these barriers. We have to, because these differences are not going anywhere, Sunni, Shia, and we have to try to think that, look, all people are trying to come from a position of love for the deen, and we may agree with them, we may not agree with them. We obviously won't, let's say as Sunnis, we will disagree with the Shia on many views, but it doesn't mean that we have to hold an enmity, or we have to be, people are different. In principle, we agree with many of the principles. I'm just saying, like, let's say the principle of love. Like, they have love for the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, that principle, we agree with it. It's an amazing principle. And even if we're not doing it as much, and they are doing it, so, in that sense, we could be proud of them. And then, they would have certain things we would disagree with, let's say. Obviously, there is a lot of sometimes as well in the Shia tradition, I feel that they're caught up a lot in history, because the whole thing is centered around the history and the tragedy of the Ahlul Bayt. And by contrast, it then leads out to, let's say, hating on certain companions and stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that where we disagree, we could just leave that. And where we agree, we can respect each other. And then just, we don't need to talk about it. I don't need to turn you into a Sunni. You don't need to turn people into a Shia. We just need to understand that, look, these things are here to stay, and we have plenty of common ground, and just move forward with an element of we agree to disagree, and just love, and just harmony in that sense. And we have to try to be fair as well. Where we have made mistakes, try to be fair. Or if you are going to discuss something, be fair. The verse that we looked at today, اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى لا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا. Just because you disagree with a sect, don't let it lead you astray. Don't let it make you be unfair. Because it's very unlikely that you are 100% upon the haqq in everything, and they are 100% upon the falsehood in everything. This doesn't make sense. That's like rationally incoherent. And you have to be fair. People have to say, look, okay, either you just don't discuss it, but if you are going to discuss it, try to be fair. اعدلوا. This whole verse we're looking, قوامون لله شهداء بالقسط. See, like this discussion that I mentioned this previously once. We have in our corpus of Hadith, we have people like Imran ibn Hittaan, one of the transmitters in Sunni Orthodox traditions. He's mentioned, he's one of the narrators of in Sahih Bukhari. It's a tragedy for Sunni Islam. Wallahi, Imam Dar Qutni highly criticized this, that what the hell, he's a Sunni Islam, great scholar of Hadith, criticized Imam Bukhari, that what on earth are you doing here? He's saying, like, obviously he's after Imam Bukhari, but this is he's criticizing it in his he did his tatabbu. And you see, because Imran ibn Hittaan, who is Imran ibn Hittaan? He's from the Khawarij. He's from those people who, and he was an active Khariji, and he praised. Check this. He was a poet as well, and he wrote a poem praising the person who killed Ali radiallahu anhu, praising him. In fact, his poem, it's very popular. The line, he says, what is it? He says, Ya darbatan min taqiyyin. He says, Ya darbatan min taqiyyin ma arada biha illa liyabluga inda dhil arshi ridwana. He said that, Ya darbatan, what a strike. And he's talking about the strike that came down on the head of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh. He says, what a strike from a taqi, a person of taqwa. This is Ibn Muljim, yeah? He's praising this person who's gone to, who martyrs Sayyidina Ali. Says that is a strike from a person of taqwa. Ma arada biha illa liyabluga inda dhil arshi ridwan. The only thing he intended with such a strike was the pleasure of God, ridwan, to elevate in his pleasure of God. And then he said, Inni la adhkuruhu yawman fa ahsabuhu awfal bariyati inda Allahi mizana. Check that out. He said, I recall it, this striking of Ibn Muljim to Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh. And he says, and I calculate it to be awfal bariyati, this person to be the most affluent inda Allahi mizana, of good deeds when it comes to the day of judgment in front of God. Now just look at that. He's saying that this person who killed Sayyidina Ali, he is, this person is he's going to have the most rewards on the day of judgment. I mean, this is a tragedy to Sunni Islam. And these things are not hidden. People know this. Our great, from Sunni Islam, they say the last mujtahid of all Sunni Islam. This is what people say, the last, they say the mujtahid mutlaq is Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, passes away in 311. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari strongly, so many Sunni scholars condemned Imran ibn Hittaan on this poem. Do you know, Ibn Jarir al-Tabari had a poem in response to him. He said, his poem was Ya darbatan min shaqiyyin. Sorry, min taqin. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Sunni scholar, great mujtahid, has his tafsir. He says, Ya darbatan min shaqiyyin. Not taqi, he says, a strike from a wretched person. Ma arada biha illa liyabluga inda dhil arshi khusrana. Not ridwana, khusrana. He says, only thing he intended with it was utter devastation and loss according to God. Not pleasure. He changes the word. He says khusrana. And then he says in the second line, he says that inni adhkuruhu, I remember him. Inni adhkuruhu. So the first poet said, Inni adhkuruhu wa ahsabuhu, and I calculate him to be. But Ibn Jarir al-Tabari said, Inni adhkuruhu wa al'anuhu, and I send la'na on him, I curse him. Wa al'ana al-kalb Imran ibn Hittaan. He said, and I curse the dog Imran ibn Hittaan. This is Ibn Jarir al-Tabari saying this in a poem. He uses his poem, reframes it as this, and curses him, like insults him. And this is it's known. This is not me making this stuff up. But it's a tragedy to Sunni Islam that we have to defend people like Imran ibn Hittaan. We don't defend them. He's, and the fact that he's in Sunni books as a narrating a hadith, which never, as far as I'm concerned, his narration is unacceptable categorically. Doesn't matter. And the fact that Imam Bukhari has it doesn't matter. So this is the point, you see. But we have to be i'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa la yajrimannakum shan'anu qawm. Just because people disagree with the Shia, we shouldn't kind of let it turn us away from the truth. That we should still be just, okay? Because in all honesty, if a person had praised the murderer of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, now let's be honest. If a person had praised the murderer of Umar ibn al-Khattab with such intolerable words like this, that, oh, it's going to be the best thing God has ever seen, and so on and so forth, we would never allow them in the corpus of Sunni Islam. So just being fair, always be fair. But we have to remember that we are not, there's a poem from prehistoric Arabian times. In fact, this person reaches Islam. His name is Durayd ibn Samma. He's a well-known, he was like a famous warrior in early Islam times, but he never embraced Islam. And in fact, when the time came, he fought against Muslims, and he died in the Battle of Hunain, I think it was. But he was a known warrior, Durayd ibn Samma. He was from the tribe of Hawazin, which is from Qais Aylan, which is from Mudar. Oh, now I'm into the tribes. So anyway, Durayd, he has this famous poem, and it's actually really interesting, and it ties in here. And it's used, it's become a method, it's become proverbial, right? Because his tribe were going somewhere, and they were about to have this battle, and he gives them this, he gives them his advice, and he was right in it, but they don't listen to him. So he says that amartu amri bimun'arij al-lawa falam yastabin ar-rushda illa bihalqati. Because what happens is he tells them that we should do it like this, but they don't listen to him, and they do it their way, and people get killed, and his own brother gets killed. He doesn't get, he obviously survives it, but he's like this great warrior. But and this poem, he says in turn, he says falamma asawni kuntu, he says falamma asawni kuntu fihim wa qad ara ghawayatahum wa annani ghayru muhtati. He says that when they disagreed with me, I still stuck by them, because then their opinion, as misguided as it is also my opinion. He says, فَلَمَّا عَصَوْنِي كُنْتُ فِيهِمْ وَقَدْ أَرَى غَوَايَتَهُمْ وَأَنَّنِي غَيْرُ مُحْتَدِي هَلْ أَنَا إِلَّا مِنْ غَزِيَّةَ إِنْ غَوَتْ غَوَيْتُ وَإِنْ تَرْشُدْ غَوِيَّةُ أَرْشُدِي. This has become the proverb. He says, am I anyone except an individual from Ghaziyah? Ghaziyah is his sub-tribe from the tribe of Hawazin. He says, I'm just an individual of Ghaziyah. If Ghaziyah is misled, then I'm misled. And if Ghaziyah is on the path, then I'm on the path. هَلْ أَنَا إِلَّا مِنْ غَزِيَّةَ إِنْ غَوَتْ غَوَيْتُ وَإِنْ تَرْشُدْ غَزِيَّةُ أَرْشُدِي. So this is often used in Arabic to show when a person is kind of saying the democratic thing. They're trying to say, well, we're democratic. Although in his case, he was wrong, and Islam teaches. And in fact, this was used by al-Malik Hassan al-Thani, the Moroccan king, with his election. In the past, he used this as well, this same poem. That and they're using it to show democratic, like I'm with the people. But really, the poem is showing that this person knew they were wrong, but he still stuck by them for solidarity, even though it cost them lives. And that's actually when Islam came, it made a point of that being wrong. Okay, that no, that وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. That if you follow just a majority, a groupthink, you will be misled. You will be off the path. So Islam came to say that, look, you have to value your opinion. You can't just be, you have to weigh things up. And if you feel something is wrong, you go with understanding it to be wrong then. You don't have to just say, well, هل أنا إلا من غزية إن غوت غويت وإن ترشد غزية أرشدي. It's not like that. So it's important. So this is why this poem also ties in as well to that topic, the question about sectarian stuff. And we have to be fair, and where we think we disagree, respectfully. We understand people may come from a position of love. People who defend some of these people, I understand they're doing it from a position of love for the tradition as well. They're thinking that, oh, if I criticize this, then maybe the tradition will get criticized. And they're coming from a position, I get it as well, of trying to protect the heritage and a safeguarding position, a position of love, but it's misplaced. That's all. People, we've got some guests waiting. Let's try to bring them on. Let me put on my... All right. Can all passengers fasten the seatbelt? So we've got Sayyid Muazzam. He's been waiting a little while. Let me just bring him on. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid Muazzam. Alaikum assalam. Apologies for the wait there. This is a kind of...
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, but there's some interference coming through.
Okay, maybe...
Is the mic okay? Something pressing against the mic?
No, actually, I'm using my cell phone.
Sure. Okay, sure. Okay, carry on.
I can hear the disturbance as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the one that you have, so sorry about that.
Hum bhej dete hain, yaar. I'll send it over there. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, so let me introduce. I actually first came to know about you. I think maybe last year, when I got a. Are you there?
Yes, I'm listening. Of course, I'm listening.
Somehow, sometimes in the YouTube it pops up, and I think you popped up as, when the Turkish government took over the Aqsa, and I was not very happy with it. Obviously, I didn't like it, but then all of a sudden I saw your video. I said, okay, I found someone who is thinking the way I think. And that's how I came to know about you. And since then, I have been a big fan of you. Not because, it's because you talk rational. And that's the way I always have been, frankly speaking.
I appreciate that. Where are you from, by the way?
Right now, I'm in the United States. I live in Indiana. It's the state just below Chicago. But I'm originally from Bangladesh. I came to this country 24 years ago.
Wow. Okay,
I
mashallah.
practice medicine, and that's what I do for my living.
Okay, wow. Okay, mashallah. Somebody just said, Mufti's guest looks like my chacha, looks like his uncle. There you go. Well,
I'm a chacha. Yeah, of course. I'm not young.
No, they mean it in a familial way, like as in actually looks like his uncle,
familial,
like you resemble him.
Yes, that's true.
Wow.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate that. But
sure.
So said, I have, since my childhood, I always asked a lot of questions when it comes to religion and all this. I always, definitely I'm a believer, but I always had the question, like the couple of things that you have clarified. Frankly speaking, I never bought that, the Dajjal issue. It always struck me that, how can this be true when I grew up, and of course, I never found anyone until I found you who actually made sense to me, and I could find myself that, okay, what I thought as there is some water that, and it holds some water. My thought process holds some water. Let's put it this way. But anyway, so thank you for doing it, and I hope that may Allah give you many, many years to come, so that you can keep preaching what I call rational mind, and which are very hard to get nowadays, especially if you go to this Indian subcontinent in Bangladesh, India. You will see people. To me, it seems like the vast majority of them they have education, but they don't have the rational thought process. You may be educated, but getting a rational thought process or mind that try to rationalize thing or before they believe it is hard to find, frankly speaking. So keep up the good work. By the way, you
Shukran, I
probably have seen
appreciate
me as a different name. As I sometimes text you, as a Waker81, Waker81. So you probably have.
What's that? What? As
Waker
what? Sorry?
81, WAKER.
Waker 81. Okay.
Yeah, if you can remember, I have texted.
Is it what, on YouTube or Instagram? YouTube.
YouTube. I only have YouTube. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I don't have a Facebook, so only YouTube.
क्या बात कर रहे हो यार? कहाँ old-fashioned? I could see the new fashion, the style, the charm, the doctor presence right there.
All right, so let's make it short. A couple of two things. One is, I have asked this question before and through the YouTube channel that. Do you have any plan to like compile your YouTube work, like the issues that are very, the things that really make some sense, like the Dajjal issue or the Sahih Bukhari, that really is not that, 100. We should not consider that as like the book. Sometimes I have seen people give it astaghfirullah, but they sometimes without knowing, they go beyond and they give a more importance to it other than Quran to some case without knowing. Yeah. That's what they do. In
practice, yeah, they don't. Practice. Yeah, like they subconsciously end up doing that. Yeah,
they subconsciously without knowing it, they do that. But so, do you have any plan to like make them, instead of having those as a YouTube video, compile them into a book? Like,
yeah, I do actually. To be honest, I'm kind of. Life is unfolding, I guess, in its way organically, and I do want to do that. In many ways, I'm glad as well that this. What I'm going to do is, whilst I'm just answering it, shall I just?
I think it's from my end. I think it's causing.
Yeah, I think it is. So I'll just mute that for a moment. So you see, I do intend to do that. So the straight thing, when obviously Allahu A'lam. The other point I was going to say is I'm glad in some ways I haven't done certain things already, because when this year began, and I remember saying, I was saying it as a joke, but I was saying that, look, I turned 42, and I was saying that, well, 42 is the meaning of the universe, according to, the Hitchhiker's Guide. And I was just cracking a joke, and I was saying, well, maybe, in this year, I'll have some kind of an enlightenment, and there will be, I'll be on that path, and maybe certain things will dawn on me. But I have to say that they've really have. And I wasn't expecting it to be like that. I was just saying that as a joke. But there really has been so much, I feel, that has happened throughout this year, and as a development, and just on this path of my understanding, that I'm actually very glad that I haven't done certain things already, because I thought, what? Because sometimes there's certain... I feel better ways to do the same thing and to do it better, a better job at it. And maybe had I done it before, it wouldn't have been as good of a job. So I'm very, in some way, grateful as well, thinking, what, actually, many things may happen for a reason, and maybe sometimes you don't do something in life yet, but maybe that's got wisdom in it, that when you do come to do it, that you probably have a more even heightened, sophisticated outlook than you had a few years ago. And so you think, well, okay, because I can already see that had I done this, let's say, because you mentioned some issues around Bukhari-Gate, some of these things. These topics I discussed in 2018, and now these years later, I'm so glad I didn't put them into because I feel that, actually, had I done it, I think I could do it better with certain ways that I see things now. And obviously that doesn't mean, they're not done yet, but I'm just saying they are on my, inshallah, wish list or my action list to do. So
yeah, I really, I think that is something you should do, because we I mean, 100 years from now, at least, there will be some books that will speak about what you actually wrote, like the way you are talking
I
about
mean,
somebody
sure.
wrote a book.
I mean, to be fair
Yes.
as well, though, a lot of people do in this day and age. A lot of people are more so about just watching and listening because it's an age of social media and less people are reading. To be honest, I think. But that said, I'm not averse to the idea. I'm actually agree with the idea that these things can be complementary. But I do feel that in this day and age, reading, unfortunately, is not the medium for wider reach and penetration of the social fabric. Unfortunately, a small amount of people only read, and everybody bloody watches TikTok or YouTube. And I'm actually not very active on TikTok, but there you go. So, but I appreciate it, Dr. Saab. I really appreciate it. Shukran for sharing your thoughts. Much love.
Sure. Thank you. And
So,
second
okay.
question. I don't know if
there's a second question. Okay.
Okay.
No, sure. Go for your question because you're waiting. No. You go. No. Go for it. What's the question?
Okay. The second question is, there is another person who actually lives in New York, but basically he's from Bangladesh. But his YouTube videos are mostly in Bengali. So long story short, he basically he talks like similar to you, but he's kind of a more towards the Quranic thing. Like he thinks everything can be explained by Quran, but he's not against Hadith. Like I know you bought someone from Turkey who is only on Quran. He said Hadith are garbage. I remember. I remember.
Yeah.
I know there
Dr. Edip. Dr. Edip.
Yes. He's not exactly.
What's this Bangladeshi Imam's name?
His name is I can tell you. He's not an Imam actually. He went to madrasa, Aliyah madrasa. Then he actually went to after doing his high school college. Then he went to university and did his master's in I think it's digital media or something. And now he lives in New York. But he does talk about a lot of common sense, like things that contradict with Hadith and those kind of things. Yeah. His name is Sajal Roshan. Yes, but he's all in Bengali.
What's his name? Sajal.
Sajal, Sajal. C for zebra. Sagal. Sajal Roshan. Roushan. Roshan. I'll text you one day. Okay.
No, sure. That's fine. No, it's just out of curiosity. I mean, I wouldn't understand, but I was curious. I thought, okay, it's good to.
In one of his videos, so this is the background. So when we grew up as children, we were always taught, and it was actually part of our syllabus in school, middle school, to learn the last sermon, that the farewell sermon of the Prophet. Okay, and in the textbook, it says that the Prophet saying, quote unquote, "Today I am leaving you two things. One is the Quran, the other one is my Sunnah." That's what we need. But this Sajal Roshan, actually, he had a video and he showed that there are like two main compilation of Hadith. One of them is, I think, Muslim. He didn't mention about the Bukhari though, but he said Muslim, and he actually pulled it up from the
family, of the.
Yeah, he pulled up the paper in Bengali. That's the last sermon that was describing the last sermon, where he showed that there is no such word that Prophet said, "My Sunnah." He only said, "I am leaving only thing for you, that is the Quran." Is that correct? That's my question.
Right. So the narrations that you're saying,
it has been compiled in Muslim, and I think he mentioned
it's in a few books, and Imam Malik brings some of it as well in the Muwatta, or Imam Malik's narration as well. So the famous narration about taraktu fikum, I leave these two things in amongst you, you will not go astray so long as you hold on to them. Now the popular, you're right, there's many narrations that actually say that the Kitabullah, and then it seems to just say Kitabullah, but then it says and be good and be mindful of my family. So the question is what itrati, about something about itrati be now the thing is, some people had argued that it looks like it looks like it's saying that the two things are the Quran and my family. This is what the Shia had argued. Although this is in Sunni narrations as well as in Sahih Muslim, some people had argued it only seems to say the Quran, and then the sentence about and be mindful of my family seems like it's a new sentence talking about that as a separate. So what was the other thing? Now Imam Malik does bring the narration of the two things, that Kitabullah wa Sunnati, and my Sunnah. So this narration is actually through Imam Malik, that that the Prophet said the two things, that the Quran and the Sunnah. Some people, I mean, not many, to be fair, many Sunni people just go with that then. Although in the Sunni books like Sahih Muslim and the other books, it is, you're right, the other narration does seem to outnumber this. But by understanding, Sunnis generally go with Kitabullah wa Sunnah, and the way of the Messenger. And then obviously you've got the other differences with the Shia, I would say the Kitabullah and the family. And I suppose some people could argue that in that hadith, and family is a new sentence about being mindful of my family. It just stopped with the Quran. But then the question would be, then that contradicts saying I leave two things. What was the second thing? Because if you just say, you know, I leave two things and then Kitabullah, that's just one thing. So
yeah, so that person, the Shajal Roshan, actually did bring up that issue, and he said that the other version you are saying, the one that says my family, right? So he says that part actually happened while he, after that sermon. So well, there is a place, is there any place where he called Gadamos or something like that, where he gave another sermon? Is that after the Hajj and after that sermon, they went and stayed in some place, and there he gave another sermon. What is it called, Gadamos or something? I don't remember the name, but it's
sure. Okay, no problem. But you're right. I agree with you that I do.
That the family thing he's talked about in that one, not
it's separate. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you that I feel that where it says about what about being mindful for my family, I feel that was a separate discussion, and this hadith was, I do feel, is as Imam Malik transmitted it, that it is that the two things are Kitabullah and my way. Now, Sunnah means my way, and this is so. I do go with Imam Malik's narration that this is the correct. This is the complete narration. That's what I feel. It makes sense as well because it's saying two things. Yeah.
Okay.
So okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Shukran for that, Sayyid Mu'azzam. Hayyakallah, and once again for taking your time. Likewise,
keep up the good work, and may Allah give you more. Yeah,
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Right, people, that was Sayyid Mu'azzam from the United States. All right, a doctor. Right, and sharing some very kind words, and then some questions and thoughts. Somebody asked, who is Ahlul Bayt? Ahlul Bayt means the family of the Prophet. What is this? Slow at work. Hassan is enjoying. All right. I like it. I like it. Why not? Why not? Huh? What does MALM think about Squid Game? Squid Game. Yeah. This is that, you know, मैं कदे की राह से होकर निकल गया वरना सफर hayat का काफी तवील था. Yeah, Squid Game is I thought it was good, but I don't know the hype that people felt it was. I don't know if I agree to that hype. I think Squid Game, because it was rated #1 in, I think, 90 countries, and it's broken unprecedented records, and people say it's better than Money Heist and all these things. I disagree. I think it's all about timing. Waqt. ki baat hai. Squid Game came at a time where nothing else seems to be on. There's no true competitors. So naturally people are just bored out of their brains, and then they just watch something, and it was good. And I did like the way that they really kind of stuck some heart-wrenching emotion in there. Especially, I can't remember the marble episode, for example. It was very emotional, and so it did. But I do feel that, with TV series like this, the problem is the end game. I think sometimes I like the fact that they try to go for twists. I do love, I love a twist. But I feel sometimes some people might be doing a twist for the sake of a twist. And, I don't want to give away spoilers and ruin it for people, but I just felt that the twist, even part of the twist, okay, the mastermind, theek hai yaar, chalega yaar, it's okay. It's, I didn't expect it. I won't lie, I didn't expect it. And I was like, oh, okay, and I like a twist. But then some things are just ridiculous, like the winner, like what is he the reluctance with the prize, and just the kind of, oh, I can't really spend this money, and then this whole thing is about his daughter, who is supposed to be he's promising his daughter, and then in the end he's like, he's turning back again, breaking another promise for his daughter, even though now he has this unimaginable amount of wealth, or actually imaginable, 46 billion, should we say, or whatever it was. And I just feel that, to do what, to go back to, it's just people. I think sometimes what happens with TV series, they're going so well that, although this was just one season, but especially with more seasons, you could say Game of Thrones, you could say Dexter. I used to love the character Dexter, but the finale, it seems like they just put it together over a lunch break. It's like they work years to build these characters, to build these plots, and sometimes it's a bit, boring. Not boring, it's a bit kind of just repetitive, and then they just do all these unnecessary dumb things in the finale that were just like, why are you even doing that? There's no build up to it, there's no need for it. It's like Dexter, they just at the end, just go and kill his sister off for no reason, and do this and do that, and all these dumb things just happen in a finale, and you think, what that had nothing to do with anything. And it's like, oh my god, they just ruined a masterpiece. So I feel that, so they do that often. I didn't even watch the last series of the last season of Game of Thrones, because I heard it was ruined, and so I didn't even bother investing the time. I was like, I can't be bothered. But but overall, I did like Squid Games. I just felt that the ending, they could have done a much better job at that. Some things were just, and there were too many, when you think about it, there were loose parts that weren't really explained, like even the body parts, selling the body parts. How do you liaise with, these sub workers, kind of like having their own side business, and how do they organize that, and how do they get in touch with that doctor? And, this is just happening as a loose part. And then you've got even the whole, the police officer finding his brother, and this whole thing. This brother's great, isn't he? his whole family are looking for him, and he's just mazeme. He's not made any contact to say, by the way, I'm okay. And you think all of this, I don't know, I just found it a bit too, some parts of it just, they didn't really belong. They weren't neatly placed. But overall, it was good. I would still say it was good. I just don't feel it was epic the way people made it out. That's my thoughts on Squid Game. Yeah. Right. Is it? Somebody said, Mufti, do you believe in objective morality? It depends what that means. Mufti, do you have any tips on focus on reading books? One of my friends, Gupun, wants to read books, but he just can't stick to it. Well, he can follow a book club. You know, I've had to force myself because I started the book club, the book lounge. But you have to force yourself then to get through the book. And although that's not, you know, because sometimes you have to just corner yourself to develop a practice. Because a lot of my research is sporadic. So I read, but I read not with it isn't a linearity, it's more lateral reading. So I'll read about topics that I'm interested in, but I don't often just pick up a book and read a book from cover to cover because I've bought this new book. I may, you know, read in a researching manner. So what does this say about this, and what does this say, and then I'll formulate a question and I'll start reading around that question, and then I'll make new questions and start Googling and researching and articles and maybe chapters of a book, maybe listen. And so that's how I read. It's more, it kind of coalesces, a collage of information. But I don't read, and I wish I did read more, like just pick up a book and just read it to cover. But this is, since I've started this book club, I've had to do that. And so this month we're reading The Bonobo and the Atheist by Dr. Franz de Waal. And it's which reminds me, I need to get on with it, but it's an incredible read. And it's and that actually ties into that question. What do we think about objective morality? So morality does exist at some level within animals, so within primates and within even dogs and certain mammals. They seem to have some level of they seem to have some kind of a base, a morality base or a morality compass at a very low level. But there seems to be something about ethics and justice that is there in primates. So, for example, and this is in this book, he shows that, and we'll discuss this at the end of the month. We're going to do our book review on it. So you'll see he'll speak about certain certain primates, these monkeys, that what they'll do is so how they comfort the other monkey that's ill, and they have these kind of almost like this straw that they make a nest out of, that monkeys often use. And when they sit against this certain wood, it's a bit uncomfortable. So he mentions how one of the female monkeys will get a bit of this straw, and because this monkey's ill, she'll put it behind his back. She'll force it as a pillow. She'll make a pillow behind his back. And she's making this from an understanding that must be uncomfortable, how he's sitting. It's not, so she's obviously identifying with that. When I sit like this hurts. So this is obviously called theory of mind, where you can put yourself in the other person's shoes. But then there's elements of retaliation and revenge, and it's not just instinctive. Like obviously if an animal attacks one animal, they attack it back. This is just instinctive, but they will retaliate from the tribe. So there's incidents. One example, like let's say this particular chimp is attacked, but then the sister a few days later took revenge on the perpetrator by going and attacking, I think, a family member of that perpetrator, but after a few days. And you see, it's not just in the moment. They seem to have this thing of, what you did was wrong, I'm going to retaliate. And even if I'll plan it for a few days. But it's fascinating, you see, because this is monkeys doing this. And so, yeah, and monkeys will, so for example, they will do, let's say, perform tasks for a slice of cucumber. So you condition them, so they, every time, as a reward mechanism, they do this task, they get a cucumber. Now they're all happy about that until they bloody hell, until they see another primate, another monkey, for the same task, getting a grape. A grape. I sacrificed my life for Pakistan. Grape. So until they see the other chimp getting a grape, and a grape in their hierarchy of food luxuries is seen as greater because it tastes better than a cucumber, then they stop doing it. They stop doing their task until they don't get a grape as well. So they understand, they have some understanding of equity, that you see it's not fair. That why is that monkey getting a grape for the same task for which I'm getting a cucumber? And that's rested on a sense of fairness, because they're thinking, well, he's a monkey, I'm a monkey. And they're thinking, well, we're doing the same task, so we should be treated fairly. So this is, recently in the last few decades, there's been a lot of research done on ethics and morality within the animal kingdom, especially primates, especially monkeys, and dogs as well. So dogs will, for example, perform a task without a reward. They'll do it just like this until they see another dog doing the same task and getting, so for example, a biscuit or a piece of meat. Then this dog will stop doing it because it will think, acha, it will think, kutta samjha hua hai ka? Be like, do you think it's like, it's like pinche perro. The point is that they're thinking, what kind of a dog's life is this? Why does that dog get a reward and I don't? So you see, you have to understand there's a sense of fairness that they have. So this is in several parts of the animal kingdom, and humans have this within us as the fitrah, obviously heightened, and we have, obviously you put empathy in that and the ability to avoid harm. Sorry, not the ability to recognize harm, and empathy because we know we want to avoid it and we can understand it in someone else and feel their pain through empathy. So this is this is fitratullah allati fatara an-nasa alayha. So Allah has put this fitrah amongst with a few other things as well. Like we do have a drive for certain things naturally. They seem to be inherent with us. And then a lot is socialized as well. So yeah, so that's how morality I believe it to kind of work. Dogs being descended from wolves see their owner as the alpha wolf, hence the loyalty. Yeah, you're right, actually. Very true. And that's very interesting point as well. Yeah, Mufti, is it possible to hypnotize someone? Yes, of course, it's possible to hypnotize someone. I mean, it depends what you mean by hypnotism. At a therapeutic level, we do work with hypnotism. At a low level kind of hypnotism, I use it as well in certain therapeutic kind of ways, and I self-hypnotize as well at certain points to overcome. But it's not. It depends what you mean by. It's not the kind of hypnotism like that hypnotism, but it's just to creep into the subconscious. That's all. But I do have a good friend of mine who is a hypnotherapist as well. So he does that. I mean, he does that as well. He's trained in that as well. But I don't know about the hypnotism. I mean, it does exist as well, but at deeper, stronger levels, when they properly take you out, like. But I don't know. Yeah, I think some of it that you see on TV is just dramatized and theatricized, and yeah. I see Saracen, you're doing it. Yeah, you're doing it. Much love for the super chat. Mufti, what's your views on demonology, the study of demonic entities in religions and cultures? Sure, I mean, you could study it as in a study. If you're interested in that, that's fine. I think anything a person is interested in, they should study. Interests change as well over time. I don't know if it would interest me, things like demonology. I wouldn't really be that interested in it. maybe just intrigued somewhat, as in, I wonder what the culture's had, but I don't have so much of a particular interest. We've got a guest here, right? Let me just put this. Damn, I forgot all about. I don't see this. I'll share the link. All right. Okay, I've shared that. Has that not? Oh, it has come out. Okay, epic. Now. All right. So, yep. Was somebody asking about the show? Yep. It's changed to Wednesday. Shukran for that, Zeba. It's this show, Meaning with MALM. We've got Saif Diab once again. All right. Ahlan wa sahlan. Saif. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Loud and clear.
Oh, thank you. Fixed it. All right. How you doing, man? So I heard about you. Your favorite show is Dexter. Mine too.
No, I don't know about. I don't know about the most favorite. I'm not saying it's the most favorite, but I did like it. I did like
it. Too,
yeah.
Right? It's I found it like a really good show, but it's like, most people think it's about serial killing, which it is, but I think that's like the shallow, right? Like there is a deeper, lessons you can take away from Dexter.
There's a like this substrata to it where it's because in many ways it's about this kind of this inner struggle with the shadow as well, and this whole thing about because he's doing terrible things, but he's still this kind of good guy. He's not, and he's obviously got his own past and his own demons, so to speak, that he's trying to. Yeah, but and I love the narrator voice that would speak. I watched it years ago, so long ago.
I watched it like 3 or 4 times, but years ago.
Oh wow!
It was like really good. It's like one of my top shows. Like you might like Hannibal, NBC Hannibal.
Right. Okay. I think years ago I watched 1-2 episodes and I never really followed through with it. But okay.
It's like the new one, not the old Hannibal. But I think it has like the same kind of thing because it does deal with psychology and empathy and all that. Okay. What else? So yeah, you were talking about people who are having struggling with life, right, and trying to move on. And I also had a few friends that I tried to help out, but it's also, like you said, it's time consuming and everything like that. And I found like it's just easier if I can just work on myself, right?
Of course.
And I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't like to be uncomfortable with life.
I think that's natural. Being uncomfortable is in it by definition an inconvenience because you're uncomfortable. You're being moved from your comfort, and it's unsettling, it's distasteful, it's unnerving. People, you'd rather just relax. If given a choice, you'd rather just be.
But people want to better their life without being uncomfortable. Like like when you go to the gym, right? You work out, your body feels uncomfortable. No one wants to run a mile or 2.
But the weird thing is then it becomes a pleasure in it. Like you see, like when you go to the gym, in fact, after this, I'm going to wrap this up soon now and I'm going to hit the gym now because thinking about it. And because sometimes there is a fine line. You see, there's a horizon, but then there's a fine line at a certain point between pain and pleasure. At some meeting point, not people on the extremities,
that, right? It's like a mountain, just like once you go through the struggle, you run every day for maybe 3 times a week. Within a month or 2, you're gonna find the pleasure in it, and you're gonna feel like so much better off.
And I call these things positive addictions that will better you. So, for example, going to the gym can become an addiction. Like people say, people that do jogging a lot. Now, I don't do jogging a lot, but people that do that, it becomes an addiction for them. But I think, okay, jogging, even gym, I guess, it's as long as people are taking care of themselves as well. They're not, because you got to be careful. Some of these things you can get injuries.
Yeah,
but it's even with jogging, because you can get joint injuries and stuff like this. But these are positive addictions. So when you don't do them, you feel all like you don't feel right because you need to. But they keep you good and healthy, and so I think these kind of, if you want to call them addictions, are good. They're not bad things. Yeah.
I totally agree, and I think like even facing yourself and your past, it's the same thing, right? It's like the struggle at first is discomfort and you don't want to deal with it, and you just rather just like cry about it or complain about it. But like the more you face yourself and the more you try to like whether it's lesser your anger or be less I don't know, whatever. Like
this is an interesting point. There's a comment here by Muhammad Hassan. He said, look, uncomfortable on your terms versus others is the big difference. And I think that's very profound, Hassan. And I totally agree with you that, you see, let me just, right. So, guys, some of the comments, please keep them civil. Otherwise, I will otherwise have to remove the comments on people as well. Right now, you see, that's very profound because it comes back to the change that you're saying. The decision to take that first step has to come from you, has to come from within. It can't be imposed on you. When a person themselves wants to change, they have to, the willpower has to be there, the irada, that has to be there, that will, and then they can take, as opposed to having it impositioned on you. You see, you can't, it has to be internal, and people can, great things can emerge from that.
I don't know about that because like I don't think my parents ever taught me that way. Like they forced me to go to college and school and do that, but there was no like why. They couldn't answer the question why very correctly. I found out the answer by myself. Well, not by myself, by asking the professors and all that stuff.
And to be fair as well, you see, I think sometimes we have to come to terms. We have to recognize that we say, such and such person didn't do this for me. They didn't show this to me. They didn't tell this to me. But they, in their own way, too, were just developing and didn't know. Many people just don't have the answers or the right or the suitable answer to give. Like they may have an answer, but, it's not maybe it's not the suitable one. It's not, and maybe they've not had the opportunity to develop and mature in a certain way in life.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know why
they
rush to make children if they're not ready even to like face themselves or fix themselves, right? Like,
safe the app, my dear friend. Making children is less often a deep philosophical, rational pursuit, and is more often one of a visceral, erotic nature that has anything has hardly anything to do with the rational brain. Although it does have to do with the brain, but it's not that aspect of the brain.
Emotional, yeah.
It's more that is actually one of the few times humans do live in the moment, but they live in the moment for the wrong reasons. Yeah. So
I'm not saying it's wrong to make children. I'm just saying like, be ready for, like it's not about like having the money, the resource, like financially capable, but it's also like it's the father and the mother mentally capable and emotionally capable, but they just sometimes they don't want to deal with the children. They just rather give it off to a day care center or a therapist and like, hey, deal with my child, right? And I feel like, or even worse, they just the parents are toxic and they kind of try to develop.
It's hard. I think honestly, that it's interesting because the more aware you become of these things, the more you realize the responsibility and how difficult it is. And the less aware you are, the more easier it is, even though it's not probably being done maturely and right, but it's being done much more easier because people are like, well, it's just kids. What the hell? Just get on with it and do this and do that. And in that sense, it's more easier to get through it. But if it is done with more maturity, like you're saying, and more depth to it, then what you produce, those children will be phenomenal hubs of radiance. They will be something phenomenal. It's not just, they won't, and I'm not saying normal people can't, every other person can't, they can as well become something phenomenal, but these people will just have a head start.
Right, exactly.
Because they will, you see, it's different, because you see, the other problem is, one is having a head start. Even that's okay, because as a grown adult, if you can pull your stuff together, you can get on with it, get cracking, and you can also, if you have the willpower. The problem sometimes is the childhood isn't just about, they didn't nurture you to enhance, let's say, all these, let's say, your confidence or your education or your skills, and they didn't do, it wasn't just that they didn't provide that, but conversely, they did a lot of damage. So you deal with many people who have a lot, like they've been broken since childhood. So they've got a lot of, it's not just that they didn't have, so other kids who have extra skills and they were kind of invested in, so they've got this head start. It's that these people are not just minus the head start, they are actually broken. And there's a lot of people like this. And this is, I once read this, I've quoted it on several occasions. I've read in this book once, this person said that parents are like, children are like vessels or a glass to parents who often leave their fingerprints like stains on them. And he said, and every now and then they smash them to pieces. And it's as a metaphor, and I thought, damn, that's so profound, because it's true. And sometimes it can take a life, maybe it doesn't have to take a lifetime, but it could be a lifetime of an obstacle. Right. Because you don't, there's all this, like we have, so people have low self-esteem and they don't know why. It's because of childhood, for example. Right. They've got they don't believe in themselves because of childhood. They've there's a lot going on.
So, and I feel like when people figure out why they have XYZ problem, it's more like a door opened and they can move on with their life. If they know, like, oh, I have low self-esteem because my big brother just pushes me down. He takes away my stuff. He always manipulate my mind and all that stuff.
Who's this? Your brother?
I don't have a big brother.
You're just saying hypothetically. Yeah.
Hypothetically, like a family member or a mother or a father, are abusive to the child. But like, I feel like when humans realize where the problem initiated, they can kind of move on, like accept reality and start moving on. And
it is, you can do, honestly, the human connection is so wonderful. Wallahi, it's so, I was thinking about this. I don't know, maybe it's in over a week ago or something like this. I don't even know what I was doing when I thought about it. I was just thinking that there is such a pleasure sometimes. Like I don't know. I feel I'm at a stage in life where I really enjoy getting to know people. Like I there's like an enjoyment to it, and it's strange because I can think back. I mean, you get to know people because obviously, let's say you need to know people for something, but I actually enjoy sometimes, like, because every person has a story. Everybody's carrying a story, and I enjoy it. And like sometimes I'll talk, and I get very curious, and I get kind of like almost sucked into the story, and I'll be like, oh, and so. And I was just thinking, it's so amazing that Allah says that inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'il. Allah made you these kind of people lita'arafu. You see, in the thing that you see. So why? So that you may come to know one another, know their story. This is the purpose of it, because each individual, like, think about it right now, there's whatever, over just under 8 billion people on the globe, so 7 billion, whatever the current figure is. That's 7 billion stories, each person. And it's just amazing for even a moment to see this person's world through their eyes. And I don't know, I find it, and maybe it's just an age thing, but I find it very profound.
Everyone have like their own interpretation and perspective. Like, you see the number 6, some people see it as 9, and you're like, wait, why is that? And then you understand,
and also it's not just even perspective, but their story. Like, they have a story, isn't it? Like where they came from, how they grew up, what happened to them, how they, every person has a story. Like, it's their story, like their own very story. And I think, and Allah saying that, this is one of the ultimate things, the ultimate keys is you get to learn, find out each other's stories.
Right.
And we're so immersed in our own story about the nafs, self, we're trying to show a story that sometimes isn't ours, and we're just forging a story. It's not authentic. Social media, sometimes we're forging something and it's not true. And whereas if we were just learning each other's actual story, I came across on social media, I think it was in, I don't know what country it was, I think it was either Sweden, or was it the Netherlands, or where they had a library where you visit on a particular day, but there were there would be certain select chairs with a person who would be sitting there, like, let's say it's a fireman or a policeman or a person, a nurse, or there's I don't know, there's anyone, and they don't have to, it's not about professions, they could just be a mother, somebody that's sitting there, and there's a chair in front of them. And in this library, you don't go to read, you go to sit there and listen to someone's story. And I just thought that's so, honestly, I saw it on Instagram and I thought it's mesmerizingly beautiful when you think about it, because it's the true human connection. And honestly, I find it so, I get really drawn into it, because
I guess it's better than reading books.
And also, we can make, what I was going to say is, if the relationship is right, you can create it will be a wonderful, a mind-blowing, just to be larger than life story that unfolds in real time for the child. Like, it will be happening. It is like, because you said about children, if the bond is right, the connection is right, it can become an epic.
Right.
But should it go, devastatingly wrong, it could become a heart-wrenching tragedy. And it is, and I think you're right in saying that. You're definitely right in the responsibility people have. They don't appreciate it at times with little kids, and they could be really hurting, and it doesn't have to be physically hurting. They could be mentally hurting children and ruining great potential, or they could be harnessing, like talking and it's. I remember speaking to someone, and I don't know him. We just got to know him, and he started sharing a lot of. There was some personal, just circumstances. He was explaining, family oriented, and he was mentioning his daughter, and I think his daughter must have been, I don't know, maybe about 12 or something like this, and I asked him. I said, and he's the father. We're actually at the gym having this conversation. I just met this person, and he was speaking about a lot of difficulties and that kind of thing. And I said to him, I said, look, I said that because the relationship was, I said, can I ask, like, I said, do you hug your daughter? Like a simple kind of thing, like, and he was like, I used to before, but like many years ago, but I was like, but why not? Why do you not? Like, this is something so core at existence. This is even beyond. It's not even restricted to humans, but it's so important for humans that this core connection. And it's interesting that people, you see what people do. We're in an age where people will speak of appreciation and gratitude, and they'll say, well, these children ain't grateful. But you have to understand that they are looking at it from their perspective, not from ours. Like, there's no point me, let's say, as a little kid in the 80s, there's no point me expecting my kids to be looking at the world how I was looking at it. So obviously I didn't have, so as an example, I think it's a good example, because this person, he said, look, and I think this is a good point. This isn't to knock this person, because the person was doing it from a place of love. He was saying it from a genuine sincerity, that, look, he said, I've brought my kids a 50 whatever inch TV and an Xbox, and
I mean,
they ought to be grateful. But and I said that, you see, where we're missing the mark, where you're missing the mark, is that you're right. You or me, when I was a kid, we didn't have these luxuries, right? We did have a TV at home, but we didn't have these opportunities, and things were really strict, and they were really tough for us. So if you went to my childhood and gave me a 50-inch TV, I would be, I'd be on the moon, colonizing the moon. I'd be over the moon. I'd be so elated and out of this world. But you see, to these children today, who toddlers have iPads.
Right. No, yeah.
Toddlers have iPads. Most toddlers have an iPad nowadays. Let's just be honest. Now, so to them, this is a natural progression. Just having a larger TV and an Xbox is nothing so mesmerizing. It's just a series of what they are accustomed to. So you can't, you see, I said, your gratitude is you're right. People should be grateful if they lived like how we lived as kids. If you're going back to the 80s and giving someone something like this, they're a little kid, they're going to be, oh my God, and so grateful.
Yeah, they're in paradise.
If you're in, this time in 2021, trying to give a little child, say, oh, but there's a TV in the house, nobody even watches TV. It's like what the hell do I do with the TV? So the point is, it's about perspective. You see, many parents, and I'm not faulting the parents, because everybody's on a learning curve. We're all trying to develop. That it's a journey, that, you see, people are looking at it from their eyes view. So they're thinking, me as a child, I would really be grateful to carry a mobile phone around. I've given my child a mobile phone. Why isn't this ungrateful git grateful to me? But you're not, you see, you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. You've got to see from this child's eyes that everybody's got this. It's not actually, this is the norm. This is the new standard. It's not something exceptional. In fact, the kid's probably thinking, damn, everybody else has got an iPhone 12 or whatever it is. And I've just got a 10. So I'm kind of like borderline poverty. I'm
holding an 8.
I'm just above the poverty threshold. And so this is it, isn't it? So it's difficult, because things are changing so fast. I dread, honestly, I dread my own kids growing up so fast, because I think, damn, the world's changing so fast, and it's like, how do people even? Because you don't know what to do. You're just, every person, I think, is just winging it. And
I think we just have to listen to the kids. Like, just ask them, what do they really want? Because for me, getting an Xbox and TV, yes, it's a very good thing, but it's just a distraction, right? Because I'm just gonna be hooked on it for 24/7. become an addict. Well, I used to have a game addiction. So I think it might be.
You see, an important thing is to teach. I think, if anybody watching this in the future, if there's a lesson that you want to take away from this that I'd like to share with you, and that is that the age we live in, it's really important that you cultivate and you enable your children to foster, one, the quality of curiosity. It is too important. Okay, they must really, that every child has this flame. Every child, you don't need to give them the flame, they're born with it. God has given them the flame. You need to just kindle it and make sure it keeps shining bright. Okay, the second thing I would say is if you can foster in them critical thinking skills, because we are in an age where you don't need to teach them information. They have more information at their fingertips than you could ever know. The problem is they have misinformation. They have misleading information. They have, false news. They have a tsunami of just data. They need to know how to filter. They need critical thinking skills. This is the second most, honestly, as far as when it comes to learning, these qualities, if you can help them improve that, they will go a long way in life. Rather than just saying information. The information is good, but these two things. So, yep, that's epic.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for
Shukran. I was just looking at, I was trying to see shukran for that, Saif. I dearly appreciate it, all the way from NYC.
Yes.
Wow. Much love.
Have a good one.
How's the book coming along, by the way?
It's still chapter 3 or chapter 2.
Yeah. I know. It's one of those. I've been a bit busy as well this month, and I thought to myself, you know what? I was just thinking actually yesterday, or day before actually, that I need to put my head down and get reading because I'm a bit behind. I think I'm just on probably chapter 3 as well. So I've got to do that, and inshallah we'll speak soon.
For work tomorrow, so I can just jam it.
Right, so you're doing it safe. Appreciate it. Take care. Much love.
Have a good one.
Right, people. I don't know. There's some kind of a question discussion thing. Somebody saying, can I get onto a podcast about culture, Desi Arab culture? I don't, we could see. What's this? Rahim Sanman. I wonder if there'll be a day whenever someone like MALM is considered a fuddy-duddy. I don't know what that is. Oh, damn. Have I put this? Is that something? Sounds very dodgy. Let me see. What the hell is a fuddy-duddy? Let me just Google this. There it is. Person is old-fashioned and fussy. He probably thinks I'm an old fuddy-duddy. Person old-fashioned and fuddy. Old-fashioned, I think, yeah. I think I am considered by many people a bit old-fashioned. It's different because I think on certain things, because I definitely get that impression that a lot of people the younger people would think I'm maybe not like, because I'm an open-minded person. I'm not judgmental. So that's probably the key difference, that when you think of somebody a bit old school, you associate judgmental with them. But I'm not judgmental, generally speaking, and I try to always improve that and be less and less so. So minus that, but my views in certain things are definitely, I'm sure, considered old school. They would be. Well, that's life, huh? Why not? But yeah, I don't know. It's what do people think of you? What is it? मैं अक्सर चूम लेता हूँ. मैं अक्सर चूम लेता हूँ उस रास्ते की खाक ज़फर जहां से कोई बहुत बेखबर गुजरा है. I'm sure that's a कोई बहुत बेखबर गुजरता है. Yeah. That he says, the poet says that I embrace or even kiss the dust of the path, or I embrace, I suppose in English it would sound more as embrace the dust of the path, Zafar, when I come to learn that somebody so carefree, free-spirited, passed by this way. Because there's just a quality about a free spirit or a carefree spirit. All right, so guys, you know what? Let's wrap this up. I think it's been good as always. Wow, it's gone to 3 hours. Right, guys, you guys have been awesome as always. I think you can't if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. In fact, there was one thing I'll share before I I saw this image and I thought that let's because I always ask people that they should connect with the Quran and just read whenever you can. I'm not trying to say if you can't do it every day, don't. Whenever you can, even if it's a line and a verse, and you just see how does it speak to you with the baggage you've got in life. And there's a narration, although it's not that authentic, but it speaks about a time will come when the Quran will no longer be there, and it's one of those kind of apocalyptic, but it's also trying to embed the value of the Quran. Now, somebody had an image and I saw it, and it's one of those that it just hits deep. And it was that they had an image, and I know it's just symbolic, but it was, as you can see, it's the Mus'haf, the Quran, except it's not there. And there's just something so unnerving and unsettling in a very eerie kind of way about this image, and it just sends shivers. I mean, ya salam, honestly, I saw it and it just and I thought I'll just share that with you guys, that wow, it's something. And you know what, in a way that's because the value you have for the Quran is so intrinsically entwined in your soul, in your this identity that you have deep down, that you feel that tremor. And that's just, it reminds you that you're on this path, this journey, and life is unfolding one step at a time. One step at a time. Sometimes, I don't know if you guys fall asleep sometimes, and a couple of times I'm so tired and I may park up on my drive, and sometimes as I sit there to get out, I fall asleep. and I'll wake up and I'll be completely shocked. I have no idea where I am, and I'm trying to figure out where the hell am I? And it's a bit like that, like you have a glimpse that this wake up to, you are on this path. And मैं अकेला ही चला था जानिबे मंजिल मगर लोग साथ आते गए कारवां बनता गया. That you have set out on this path all alone, but people, they came along, and it became a caravan. Allah. And with people, what I mentioned before, Abdul Hamid Adam, that baaz awqat kuch, baaz awqat kisi ke milne se adam, apni hasti se mulaqat bhi ho jati hai. That is actually very profound, honestly, and that by people you may meet along the way. Baaz awqat kisi ke milne se adam, apni hasti se mulaqat bhi ho jati hai. That you come to learn more about yourself. And by yourself, you learn more about God. And along the journey, as the caravan goes, that hazaron phool khile, par apna kafila na ruka. Dilon pe daagh liye hum chaman se guzre. Allah. That, as you go on the path, things happen in life. That's things that may entice, things that may distract you. But the caravan must keep going. Dilon pe daagh liye hum chaman se guzre. That despite wounds on the heart, we kept going beyond this garden. Allahu Akbar. May Allah bless you all. May He smile on you all with His grace and keep you all cheerful and joyful. If you do want to reach out to me, feel free. You can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm very responsive on there. Do like, share the videos. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube, man, what is this, man? What? Let me get to this. I was trying to bring up oh no, that's just bringing up that page. But if you haven't already subscribed, then do so. Click like, click share. You can also on Patreon, for those of you that do want to connect further, you can connect. There's a poem that's just come up there on that slide. Soda khuda ke vaste kar kissa mukhtasar. Apni to neend ud gayi tere fasane mein. Yeah. Wow. You got to give it to Soda. So people, have an awesome time. Take very good care of yourselves. Remember to take time out for yourselves. Appreciate life a little. That this is a gift from God. Appreciate, in the little things. Sometimes just take a few minutes to just sit back someday. Just, maybe you're drinking a cup of coffee in the morning. Maybe you're just sitting in your garden. Maybe you're just out there somewhere whilst the world is busy, and you just think, life is a blessing. Allahu Akbar. Guys, with that, Salamullahi alaikum wa khuda hafiz.